Good morning, afternoon, or evening, sports fans, whatever time it is, when and wherever you're listening. Welcome to the Casuals Podcast. I am one half of your host, Chance. Joining me today is the Mean Green, Fighting Irish supporting, Dallas Cowboys loving, Cade. Cade, we're finally doing the thing. How you feeling, man?
I love it, man. This was always one of the biggest goals of my life, as much as I found out recently that it was also yours. So we're just going to ride this thing out.
It's crazy when friends talk about sports, we just figure out that we have similar interests and goals.
Just do it.
We're rapidly approaching the midway point of the NFL season. NBA season is here. The World Series is literally happening, probably as I'm editing this.
Yeah, tonight.
And sports are just sporting hard right now, man. How are you feeling about all of it?
Sports in general right now is at an all-time level. I love where college football is at. We got a great NFL slate coming up Sunday.
Dude, this season has been crazy.
World Series is happening right now. I'm sad about my Phillies. But, that's a conversation for another day. We hate the Diamondbacks, but go Rangers.
Hate the Diamondbacks.
What else is happening?
Go
NBA
Reds.
season just started. NBA season's happening. Hockey. I'm a hockey guy now.
We're both hockey guys now, as of this season.
Nobody knew, and I just made my fandom too.
Light the beam. What an insane game last night.
Loved it.
What an insane
Loved it.
game.
Loved
Overtime. Looked like flashes of prime James near at the end of the game. Anytime he cut, he just had a free lane to the basket, but D. Fox fouled out. DeMontis fouled out. And then Keegs, Kevin Herter, Malik Monk, they all just stepped up, honestly.
Took
It was awesome.
Malik 12 of 22 and OT.
Crazy. Yeah, what was it? 11 points in overtime?
I believe.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy, man. We have a really talented young roster, and yeah, I'm one of the people that says we when I'm talking about my favorite fan base, my favorite team. Just deal with it. Let me have this. Life is depressing as it is. Just let us have it. Honestly, I mean, people online that have a problem with that, it's like, bro,
Grow up.
do you not say we when we're talking about your family?
Grow up.
Just grow up.
Grow up.
Stop.
That's all you gotta say.
Cry.
Yeah.
Man, what kind of games do you want to talk about to start the slate? We have Utah, game of the week, game day. I did not expect that happening.
I don't think a lot of people did.
I at least thought it would be close. Like Bo Nix and Oregon dropped a heartbreaker to Wazoo when they visited them at home in Washington. I thought they were going to come away with that game. They didn't. Michael Penix, my personal favorite for first pick. I think, Caleb Williams. He's a talented guy, but I just don't think he has the intangibles that Michael Penix has. But
Not this year.
Not this year, indeed.
Not this year.
My Buckeyes come away with a win. Marvin Harrison is just Marvin Harrison,
Really
the second.
He's really him.
He really is him. One game away from tying the record, right? Tying with Chris Carter and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Man, we just, despite Honda McCord's best efforts, we're still undefeated, still looking good, still at number 3. And then you're fighting Irish.
We're moving. Well, 50 burger this weekend.
Little 50 burger. Felt bad for that mascot, honestly.
2-5 team. But we'll take a 50 burger any day of the week. Look great. Defense dominated as always. Still believe that we're a top 3 defense in this country.
I'd say top 3. I'd give you 3.
I'd say you have to.
Yeah, how does this, the biggest question is, honestly, how does this affect Kenny Pickett's legacy at Pitt?
Ban the fake slide. So, I mean, that's what...
Fire Canada.
His biggest accomplishment was banning the fake slide, so
yeah,
good for Kenny.
We'll save the Fire Canada chance for the NFL talk, but why don't you start us off with your Notre Dame game? Let us know what you saw, what you liked. What made you feel hopeful that maybe, just maybe, if the right teams lose, you might find yourself in the college football playoff this year?
Well, as much as I want to, I don't think I see us in the college football playoff, unfortunately.
Bowl game, though. Maybe an important bowl game.
New Year's 6 is very much alive. I mean, we probably need a little bit of help. We got a lot of top 10 games happening this coming weekend. Bama and LSU is happening.
Yeah, big one.
Really big one. Coming in the next few weeks, Washington USC happens. Maybe USC makes the upset. Maybe they don't. Again, either way, moves us up. So we're gonna pray
if they can put up the points. I don't think their defense is saving them that game. But if they can put up the points, maybe I could see a shootout. I could see a game similar to the Oregon-Washington game where there's just a shootout.
The final score for that game might just be 81-70.
literally,
we're not talking
literally,
basketball.
we're not talking
basketball.
Wednesday night D2 college football. We're talking
Pac-12.
Pac-12 football. Literally,
dark, yeah.
Literally, yeah. That's that's a hard thing about being a 2-loss team in this day and age. Before the new bracket, the new layout is here next year, you would absolutely be in it at that point. But with the way things are set up, this is the final year. Obviously, I'm not sad that you dropped the game at Ohio State. That was a heartbreaker for you, but that was a what the hell moment for me. Like I was walking away in shame after that performance, and then all of a sudden, TreVeyon Henderson.
I've heard, When I was at the game, when we came home.
You were there. Yeah, you were there. I forgot.
A lot of people left. A ton of people left after that fourth down stop. A lot of us were hyped. The real ones, though, I'm like whispering to my dad. We're right below the student section. This isn't over.
Real ones had the backwards cap, like.
This isn't over. And so we're just like, I'm like shaking in my boots the entire time, and then I see a screen on 2nd and 15, and I'm like, oh, no.
Not to go back a few weeks, but that's the hard part being an Ohio State fan right now, is you have a game like that where Kyle McCord really did come up big at the end of the game to drive them down the field.
Was the best that he's ever looked all season, by far.
All season.
By far.
And we were thinking that going forward, that was going to be the standard. But the problem is, I went to the Maryland game a few weeks back, and, I mean, our offense, the first half, Tagovailoa part 2, the weaker one, looked like he could do whatever he wanted. He could do whatever he wanted against our defense, which I think is also a top 3 defense in the country, in my opinion.
Without a doubt.
And the thing is, when we're that inconsistent, I told my wife yesterday, I was like, babe, I'm telling you right now, remind me of this conversation when we lose to Georgia in the playoffs. Remind me that I said I told you this would happen. Because with the way we've been playing, we're not only are we inconsistent, but we're just depending too much on Marvin Harrison Jr. to be an absolute freak.
Yeah. People will figure it out eventually, unfortunately, I believe.
Sadly, more than likely, if it were to happen, I'm never going to speak this over my team, but if it were to happen, it would be at the big game.
It would.
Regardless of all, I think the controversy probably is going to affect them mentally a little bit. Could affect them positively, could affect them negatively. I don't want to sit here and talk about that, though, because that's literally all my Twitter feed has been over the last week and a half.
And that's also in the end of November. So
right.
Time will come.
Time will come. So we're getting there, though. Game. We are getting there. It's
exciting,
yeah.
It is exciting. One of the biggest games of the year, probably the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, I'll never forget the double overtime thriller I went to about, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. One of the controversial calls, but we pulled it out. I got to smack Nick Bosa on the back of the shoulder pads, tell him good game.
Over that one.
Yeah, absolutely. But,
sorry.
Going back to my original point, sorry, Elon. Going back to my original point, I think you guys, you're not necessarily a young team, but you got a new coach, new system, still with the first year of the system. You guys are a good team. You just dropped two important games.
The way that we, as fans, see is that Freeman knows what he's doing. We dropped the game at Marshall. We beat Cal by 2 last year. It sucks. It's brutal. Give it a few years. I put it in one of my articles a few weeks ago.
Talk about that real quick. Segue. Talk about your credentials as a Notre Dame fan. You do know what you're talking about with the Irish.
For the people that don't know, a lot of people do know. I am a writer for the Irish Tribune now. One of the biggest accomplishments I've had in a very long time since I won Pee Wee Super Bowl in about 6th grade. But
don't forget about our flag football championship in 2020.
Second most.
Hard fought.
Second most.
Hard fought.
Second. Shout out Jordan.
Jordan, we love you. Jordan. Thanks for going up the scene.
But as far as looking ahead into the future, Notre Dame has one of the top recruiting classes heading into next year, top 10 to be exact. Looking into years forward, bringing in 5 stars. Being a Notre Dame fan, you don't see a lot of 5 stars go there.
Right.
It's a very high academic school. Yeah. It's not. I don't want to say it's not an athletic school.
Well, I was listening to an interview with Manti Te'o, and you can confirm this. When you're on the team at Notre Dame, you have to live on campus.
You have, yeah.
And for a lot of players, a lot of 5-star recruits, that's going to give them pause to go there. Yeah. But for the right people, that's going to give you even more reason to go, be a part of the school, be part of the culture.
Brian Kelly even said it in an interview whenever he took the job at LSU. As much as we hate him, he said that there's certain rules that you have to follow at Notre Dame that you can break at LSU.
Right.
So if that just says anything, that's kind of
ghetto
a little bit
poverty.
Of hints. The difference.
You guys haven't been the same since LSU. LSU has not been the same since Joe. Since Joe and Jamar and Justin left, they've just, for anyone that thought that they would be, I mean, they put all their chips in a basket to win a natty, and they did. They did. And they had a historic season.
And now
thank you for Joe, by the way.
Going to have to pray until they make it again, because I really don't see it happening recently. They had a ton of hype this year. A little bit too much hype.
A little bit too much considering everything that they lack on everything that's happened, everything they lack on their roster, and especially going into next year with the SEC, every conference is getting stronger, and
absolutely.
So it's going to make it even more tough.
It's getting ridiculous.
It's going to make it even tougher for them to stand out.
Stand out. The realignment.
I think there's positives and negatives. We can get lost in the weeds of the NIL and how that's going to affect players and transfers. I think depending on the situation, depending on the school, you're going to see a big fluctuation in school loyalty, program loyalty.
For sure.
This basically is just NFL junior at this point.
Yeah.
With the way these players are getting paid. And they should. There's no reason you should be making money off of players and they can't even afford to fly their family out for games.
Yeah.
So, I completely understand that. I completely support that. It's going to make for some really good football.
It will.
And I'm really excited for that.
Excited.
As a fan, I'm really excited. For the programs and for the schools, it's interesting to see how that's going to affect them long term.
Absolutely.
But, when you have programs like Notre Dame and Ohio State that you support, I'm not really worried about our programs. But for those smaller schools, I think the divide is just going to get even bigger.
They're just stock.
Right.
Stock. SMU, for example, going into the Power 5 in the ACC 2024, I believe, 2025. Yeah. What?
and maybe I'm just a casual. But James Madison kind of felt like they came out of nowhere this year.
That's one of the coolest stories of the season this year. By far. They have a chance to finish undefeated. Looked at their schedule today. The rest of their opponents are under 500. College football playoff.
Congrats, PFT. They've been waiting for that one.
World may never know. But,
right.
I mean, if UC can do it, anybody can do it, apparently. So we'll see.
So to get back to what we were saying, go ahead and, what did you see from your team this weekend that made you feel like NY6 is a lock?
Well, going back to the defense, they rank top 10 in just about every single category. Scoring defense, which is insane.
That's unreal that you're top 10 in that and both rush and pass.
And offense, both sides. And scoring defense, passing efficiency, total defense. What was the other one I'm missing? Pretty sure it was rushing defense as well. Rushing defense, they're top 10 in all four of those categories. Some are top 3. 2 of the 4 are top 3.
Well, if you notice the Ohio State game specifically, the reason I go back to that is because I'm an Ohio State fan. Yeah. It was a low-scoring game for a reason.
It was amazing.
That was 2 top 3 defenses.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, real fans appreciate stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Now with the NFL middle of the season, when you have 2-3 weeks in a row that are like that, it's like, all right, what are we doing? Yeah. What are we doing here?
College football thinks it's electric though, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
I love it personally.
Have your thoughts or feelings about Sam changed at all, or do you feel like he's still that guy?
I believe he's that guy. Unfortunately,
he's a handsome guy.
He's very handsome.
For sure, handsome guy.
I mean, there's so many mixed feelings about him, which I completely understand.
I understand that as well.
Yeah,
mixed feelings about your quarterback.
2 interceptions against Pitt isn't likely. One of them was a tip. Whatever, you can say what you want. It's fine. Louisville game. It's conversation for another day. That was weeks ago. We're not going to bring that up. He has a fair history.
Felt like one of those outlier games for sure.
It was one of those trap games. I think a lot of these predictions at the start of the season predicting Notre Dame to go 10-2.
You want to talk about a trap game? How about the Cowboys and the Cardinals? Cardinals have played them tough over the last few years, but I mean, that's their only win on the season. Am I wrong? Against the Cowboys of all people.
I mean, I wasn't going to mention it.
I mean, you're talking to a team that starts every season with a few losses. So I understand.
Oh yeah. It was a trip because I think it was like a wake-up call kind of for them.
Yeah.
Because it seems like at the start of every season, that team gets so hot. That team is like, it's insane. Everybody's best defense in the league. Every year, it's every single season. Best defense in the league. Dak is looking good so far. Whatever.
Interceptions are not in his DNA.
Yeah. I'm like, what?
Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones is like one of the greatest front office managers of all time. Blah, 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 blah. Come on, man.
See, me and the boys, when we watch our games together, we speak the opposite into existence to let the sports books think that we want it to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Dak definitely doesn't throw interceptions. CeeDee Lamb definitely won't hit 100 yards again this season. You know, Jerry Jones did the opposite. He said he does not throw interceptions. It's not in his DNA. He does not turn the ball over.
People can. I mean, I'm a Dak guy.
Right.
Big Dak guy.
Obviously. You are by choice, but as a Cowboys fan, you have to be regardless with his contract. There's
a lot of Cowboys fans that aren't. That's the sad part. Yeah. It's very weird, but I still think he is. I think he will be extended.
I mean, if anyone believes in Dak Prescott, it's Jerry Jones.
Absolutely.
He's shown that.
He's been
And if it came down to the wire, say, we revert back to the 49ers, Cardinals, Cowboys. Mm-hmm. Imagine, a situation where it's Mike McCarthy or Dak Prescott. It's going to be Mike McCarthy 10 times out of 10, without a doubt.
Yes.
So go back to your Fighting Irish, big win this weekend. I think you guys needed a good
good 50 burger.
Good 50 burger to feel back to your winning ways, so the way you're feeling after the first few games this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling really solid. I feel like this weekend after the Penn State game, if there was anything to take away, is I'm not so certain that we're as good as we think we are. We are a great team. Don't get me wrong.
For sure.
I think the best comparison I can make for Kyle McCord, coming from a casual, of course, is Kirk Cousins of years past. He showed flashes of being, an accurate quarterback, throwing for over 300 yards, throwing multiple touchdowns a game. Mm-hmm. And then when it came down to it, he couldn't win.
Right.
And so, Kyle McCord with an incredible defense, with a receiving core like we have, with Travion Henderson doing what he does, and if he can stay healthy, we absolutely could go and win the championship. I think Kyle McCord is good enough to not keep us from that, but I also think he's not good enough to be the reason why we lose.
A lot of the people that I've seen are talking about Marvin Harrison's draft stock going down because of McCord. I think Harrison very much proved that he is still on the rise, because a lot of the people where I'm like, you looked at Harrison's past games. I mean, I'm not trying to bring it back up again, but 32 yards against Notre Dame. I'm pretty sure what was the game after that? They had a bye week after that.
Right.
And then they come and played Penn State first game back, or Maryland first game back.
Maryland, Penn State.
Puts up 2 touchdowns.
Right.
Both games with 100+ yards, and now all of a sudden we're looking at 6 consecutive 100-yard games, I believe.
Coming up on it. I think right now we're at 4 consecutive. Is it 6 total, 4 consecutive?
4 consecutive. He's at 4
consecutive because he's approaching that record.
6 is the record, which is held by Jackson.
Right.
That's what you mentioned earlier.
Happy to see him coming into his own in Seattle, by the way.
For sure. Very, very possible to happen. Yeah. Very possible to happen. I'm rooting for it personally because I'm a sports fan first more than anything.
Sports fan, resident of Ohio.
As much as I hate to admit it, I mean,
90% of your friends are Ohio State fans as well.
Have to. It's the culture. It's a cool culture. Yeah. It's a cool atmosphere. I've never been, as much as I would love to go.
We'll definitely catch a game, if not this season, next season. But Ohio State's campus is it's awesome.
Gorgeous. I'm sure.
It's awesome.
I'm sure.
It's like one of those towns you feel. I'm sure it's like Notre Dame. When you're on campus, you feel it. Great weekend for both of our programs. Buckeyes get a dub. Fighting Irish get a dub. Looking at potentially another dub next week.
Easy.
Hopefully.
Easy. Yeah. Very, very personal game for my guys. Beat them the last 2 times, but Clemson's tough, man. Clemson's always tough.
They're not program of years past, but
you can take that 4-4 record all you want. That's a tough team and it's a tough place to play. There's a reason that spread line is only set at -3. I'm very nervous about it. But
he will not be responding to texts during that game.
I'm confident, though. I'm very confident in that game. I think that we come out. I think there's some injuries on Clemson's side that kind of take them off of their chances from winning a little bit. Mm-hmm. Star running back is out with a concussion, so that will definitely play a part. Klubnik did not look good at all last week. We're just going to have to see. Death Valley's crazy. We're gonna ride.
It's so funny though that they put so much emphasis on their walkout, like their game day tradition.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the goofiest walkouts ever, bro. Like, just coming down a slope. I mean, it's cool when the whole team gets hyped and they're running down, but like, I'm just waiting for somebody to just eat it when they're going down. I know. It's like, that's at least like 15, 20 yards, right? Like, that's steep too. It's like a hill. It's just a legitimate hill.
If we could, I wanted to show the clip of Dabo so bad was sprinting.
I'm like, man, like, I mean, you guys constructed the stadium. Make it a little more level if you know you're going to do that.
Anybody else are tearing at least both their ACLs, without a doubt.
Urban Meyer running down, tearing both ACLs. Smited by God.
Mac Brown. Anybody?
Ryan Day, he's chugging to like 4 monsters and riding a zip line down that thing. Over the last year and a half, 2 years, I've seen a side of Ryan Day that I haven't seen. Like, he's just coming to his own.
Guy.
He's a fun guy.
He's actually a fun guy.
Dude, I mean that interview with Fake Loopholes was just unreal.
That was legendary.
It was just unreal.
Oh my gosh, dude. Yeah.
That was unreal. Okay, so let's talk about some other games that happened this weekend. We'll go ahead and start with game day. Utah, Oregon, number 13 Utah hosting number 8 Oregon. Final scoreline: Oregon 35, Utah 6. I'm not gonna lie to you. I had the spread on this game, so I was tuning in for the first half. I very quickly tuned into a different game about end of the second quarter. Tuned back in third quarter, was like, okay, nothing's changing here. And like, don't get me wrong, I understand that, they're missing their star player.
Oh, yeah.
The beginning of the season. That's such a heartbreaking thing. And to get to where you are now without Cam Rising is still incredibly impressive.
Oh, for sure.
But
I think had a lot of impressive wins over the course. But yeah
again, I think for the fan base especially, this was a wake up call for them for sure. For sure, it was a come to reality moment. What did you see in that game that made you? Did it make you more concerned for the rest of the season for Utah, or did it make you more hopeful for Oregon?
Well, considering that Utah's already went through both backup quarterbacks, how they've changed. I believe, I don't know the first one's name, but Bryson Barnes last week at USC looked incredible. Surely coming into this week, I was like, oh man, like, they're going to put up a dogfight.
For sure. I was thinking like Oregon, Washington, like, wiped the floor with them at home.
It's bad to make it.
Let's just go ahead and say that, the football gods were not on the Mormon side this week with BYU and Utah. My Lord. I mean, maybe 15, 20 minutes more of prayer time. Like, they just, and it wasn't even close either. Like, it wasn't even close.
No, it never was. What was it, 20, 21, 28, 7.5?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or 6-3, whatever it was.
And I think people forget too, Bo Nix is still him.
He's a Heisman contender.
He's still him.
I still think that him and Penix are both still in the race, regardless of how the Oregon-Washington game ended.
That's the thing too.
They're both still in it.
They see the loss. They don't remember the whole game. That dude played lights out. That was an incredible game.
That was a dogfight.
This was a fight back.
Yeah.
Fight back.
It was a white flag moment
this game was. I was not expecting that. We've had some weak game days this season. I mean. Who do you blame for that?
No, you can't.
I mean, we're pulling up in the parking lot to the Maryland Ohio State game, and I see the game day buzz, or no, the big new kickoff.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the big new kickoff this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's that for Fox doing that. I mean, they in their defense, they only cover Fox except for the one random game they covered, Notre Dame USC. For why, I have no idea.
For whatever reason,
but it was cool. Whatever. I mean, 2 game day and big noon coming. You guys as well, big noon and game day already. Yep. But yeah, that was a little questionable, I guess. But, I mean, I'll let Fox do whatever they want as they continue to schedule really bad games. Ohio State, Penn State should never be a night game in the history of college football, for one. Penn State, Michigan should never be a night game in the history of college football. Both at noon this year. Hate it.
Dude, I just don't understand, number one,
hate it,
why Ohio State, Penn State was at noon. Luckily for me,
yeah.
I manage a coffee shop. I was able to host a game watch party, selfishly so I could watch the game, but also just for whatever. But
good vibes.
At noon, I would have been able to close at 3, go home, get dinner, shower, take a nap, and then be ready and just be pumped and ready for primetime football.
Instead, we have a top 10 matchup getting up at the crack of dawn almost to some people.
Then you have Penn State using their wideouts in an afternoon game against, what was it, Iowa? Iowa, the Iowa Steelers, the Pittsburgh Hawkeyes, with the way their offenses have played this year. But I'm not just here to dog another Big Ten school. So like
we can
for sure.
Very much can.
We could talk about potentially the Big Ten being better than the SEC. We could talk about this is a weaker year for those non big names, non prime schools like Michigan. I mean,
you might, yeah.
Ohio State, Penn State. The other schools have had a weaker year, but still, personally, in my opinion, better than the SEC.
Yeah.
Take that with a grain of salt. I am a casual sports fan after all. But yeah, going back to it, man, that game was not anywhere near close the whole time.
I mean, as much as that game would have been exciting to watch with Cam Rising, I think Utah wins comfortably with Cam. Personally, Cam does something to that team where they are on a completely different level.
You saw it on the game day interview too. Just the energy, it was just like
he's insane. They want him there. Yeah, that's one of the coolest parts about it is that there's a lot of rumors transferring that he's going to the portal after this year. Very possible.
That's tough to see though for Utah because
very possible to see, but because obviously as a quarterback in today's world where you want some success, you know what I mean, before you get to the NFL.
You have to prove yourself to a certain point if you don't want to be a late round third string practice squad quarterback. Because at this point, with how the QBs are laid out in professional football in the NFL, it doesn't matter how good you are in college. You still have to prove it again in the NFL. Even to keep a backup spot. Because there's only 32 teams. Mm-hmm. There's only so many quarterbacks are going to make a 50-man roster. So, it's I understand that goes back to the NIL, goes back to school loyalty, whatever you want to say. The transfer portal's been more chaotic the last 5-10 years than it has been ever.
And with that new rule,
it's
going to be very interesting to see how this stuff plays out. I'm not sure when that starts. Is that next year? Or is that
I'm not sure, but does that mean Cam Rising loses his Ford F-150?
No, he can. I don't know.
That Utah gifted the whole team. Does he lose the truck? Can he keep it?
That matters.
Is it in Utah's name or the state of Utah? The program? Do they have the truck?
All I'm saying is it's going to be very weird pulling up to Notre Dame's campus in a Utah Ford F-150.
You heard him, Marcus. Cop the man. No, get him a Raptor. Get him a wrapped Raptor at that point.
Notre Dame gets back-to-back transfer quarterbacks. I will lose my mind.
That would be nice to see.
I'll lose my mind. But I'm a fan, so I'm going to watch my guys develop Minchie season.
Regardless, if anyone knows anything about watching a team you don't expect to win, it's a Bengals fan, my friend. So I understand 10 plus years of Andy Dalton and barely breaking 500 if that. It's, now we get to watch the Steelers do that, which is
all there. Oh, it's amazing. Love to see it. You love to see it.
It's great. Staying in the Pac-12 though, to continue our college football talk. Number 5 Washington squeaks out a win, 42-33 versus Stanford. For as low of a record they've had, they have played really close to what we thought were good schools. Now, I say that to say I won't sit here and call Colorado a good school right now. After they came off, the hype was big. I love Coach Prime. You're not going to change a whole program in a year. He's already quadrupled the wins they've had last season. That's huge. That's a huge accolade, huge accomplishment. But Washington is a really good football team this year.
Oh yeah, Washington has arguably the best offense in the country, in my opinion, without a doubt. Pac-12
second to what? Maybe Oregon.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. I mean, Pac-12 without a doubt probably has the toughest conference in college football this year.
This year for sure, I'd say so.
You have to. You cannot deny that. For one, I mean, again, looking at Stanford, played a ton of good teams. Unfortunately, it's just like the Minnesota Vikings last year, losing a ton of one-score games.
Well, that's like the beginning of this year. Last year they were winning every close one-score games, and then the first 5 weeks of the season, right? In the first 5 weeks of the season, it's just that football gods were like, you had your time. We're just gonna flip that. But yeah, Stanford's a tough team to play. It's a tough team to play. They haven't been a good program. Not good as relative. They haven't been a real contender since Andrew Luck era. But
ranking wise, though, they're up there most of the time.
Most of the time. Not this year, of course.
Last few years, it's been a little down. Right. Which, as a fan of obviously Notre Dame, you want that rivalry to be good every year.
Right.
Hasn't really, but they won last year, so you kind of give them their props. But talking about this game though, they looked tough a little bit
Yeah.
more than so against number 5 team in the nation.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit surprising to me. Penix bounced back huge.
Well, I think part of it
Huge.
too, obviously playing D3 football in high school that isn't anywhere close to college football. But I remember the games where we'd come out and we'd win a big game, and then we'd play down to the level of whatever week school we had next on the schedule. We win a big game, 42-38, and then come out and beat the lowest ranked school in the conference by 7. By 3.
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of that. Sports.
That's it.
I think there's a little bit of that coming into play with this game. We've been saying it for a few weeks though. I think Penix. I think most teams would draft him over Caleb Williams at this point. I think personally because you go back to his time
at take anymore.
It's not a hot take anymore. Caleb Williams had 3 weeks to prove that after that loss, and then they got to win this weekend. Good for them. Good for Caleb Williams.
Sure.
Still a first rounder, absolutely. Still top 10 lottery, whatever. Yeah. But I think that
personally, if I'm a general manager, I'm going after Penix.
Absolutely, because you see, like with Anthony Richardson this year, you see with young quarterbacks, what happens is they come in, play their play style, and they get hurt.
Yeah.
You've already seen Penix at Indiana.
It's sad.
He gets hurt, has a major injury, works through that rehab, comes back, and is still the same player, if not better than he was before. Goes to Washington with the same coach, and then he's been balling out.
He has.
He's been balling out. Four touchdowns. 4 touchdowns. Polk has 6 100 plus. And okay, speaking of dogs, speaking of,
they're core.
Everybody talks about Maserati Marv. I haven't heard anyone say anything. Maybe that's because I follow a lot of Ohio State. They really are.
They're
really
insane. 3 wide receivers averaging 100 yards a game at I believe it was like week 4, week 5.
Yeah.
That's insane. Obviously they're probably not now. I haven't really checked in a while. But either way, 100 yards for all 3 of those guys. They're getting the ball to their playmakers, and that is why they're winning.
Yeah. That's why I say, that's why I say I'm a casual fan. When I have my free time, all I'm doing is looking up sports, watching sports, looking at stats, betting on sports.
Stuff is cool.
But we got a full-time job. I'm married. I have two animals I take care of. You have a life. You have to spend time with the wife, right? But I'm not well versed in every single conference in the college football, but I like to feel that I'm pretty well informed, and I had no idea how good this receiving core was.
Knower of ball.
Knower of ball. Knower of some ball. Casual knower of ball. Do you think Washington, obviously it's no question that they have what it takes to make it to the playoffs. Do you think they have what it takes to win a national championship this year?
National championship, no. Make a run, yes. I can see them in the national championship.
Is it another TCU situation?
Probably. Electric offense, defense is a little bit shaky. Mm-hmm. Maybe.
You see the same kind of thing with USC
all the time. It's just Pac-12 teams in general. When you look at their offense, obviously Penix, Rome, Polk, they're stacked everywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're stacked everywhere. When you put them up against Georgia, though, the only problem that I have with this is that they're going to need some. If they want to make a national championship, they're going to need some serious help. And I mean serious, because when they get to that Pac-12 title game, we might have a rematch on our hands for all we know.
Dude, I hope to God.
We might get.
I hope to God. That game was so much fun to watch, and the stakes being even higher at the end of the season, that would be so much fun.
We might. For all we know, we could see like Oregon State being in that, and they lost this weekend. Yeah. Brutal. Arizona, whatever. You look at USC. They play USC in a few weeks. They have to stay undefeated if they want a shot.
Absolutely. No question. Absolutely. And you have to be convincing. When you're Oregon State, you're not Michael Penix in Washington. You're not Caleb Williams in USC. So you have to win out, and you have to win convincingly. That's a problem with the 4-team playoff system.
They have a great resume already. Right. I will say that they have a great
absolutely.
resume.
I'm not discrediting at all. I'm just being realistic with the fact
that's the way that it is with this 4-team playoff, and I'm so happy that finally this 12-team format is coming because it creates more excitement. I think
absolutely, and you'll see more than one sleeper team.
Like that can force
exactly. James Madison, hello.
Seriously though. If you take like every conference championship, put them in a playoff. Obviously, you put Air Force against like Bama or like LSU, whatever, Ohio State. I mean, it may not go their way, but they're in there, and it creates it's for the sport, it's the culture, it's whatever.
All it takes is one quarterback having an off game, one star player getting hurt, and then a team favorite to get to the championship at the end of the year is out. That's what's so exciting as a sports fan for this new layout is there's just so many variables. There's so many things that can happen, and it's going to be really exciting football to watch.
Absolutely, whether you like it or not. I mean, again, we're sports fans first. That bottom
first
line.
And foremost, so. Sports. Nowhere a ball.
Nowhere's a ball first.
Let's talk about that Georgia-Florida game and how frustrating it was for me as someone who.
For both.
Because look, Brock Bowers out. I still thought they'd score a lot of points, right?
Somewhat.
Florida.
Maybe not 40, but...
14.5 spread. I'm like, that's a lock. That's a lock. Rhythm had it.
Rivalry
Rhythm
game?
had it, right at 10? Had it plus 10?
Yeah.
Rivalry game. Was it in Florida?
Yeah.
In Jacksonville. In Jacksonville, which is technically right.
Neutral site.
I thought
yes.
Gainesville, but technically right, yeah. But, I mean, it's right there in the middle, so it is pretty neutral regardless of the state it's in. But I expected a lot more than that. And that 20 points is really deceptive because it did not look that close at any point in the game from the first drive on.
Well, started out Florida, scored first, and then they scored second. All of a sudden, they're up 14-7. Georgia wakes up. Over. Absolutely over.
489 total yards, 6.3 yards per play, average.
Yeah.
Unreal. And I think, finally that myself included, I will say, are giving Georgia the respect they deserve as back-to-back champions. Beginning of the year, I feel like, everyone's like, of course they're number one. They have to be number one. But
crazy big shoes to fill.
Yeah.
And all across everywhere, too. Defensive, offensive. Stetson Bennett's gone. You have Keely Ringo.
He's gone again, too.
Yeah, pretty much. Carson Beck has looked solid. I don't think he's looked, amazing. But he's a solid. I mean, again, it's first year as a starter. What are you going to do? Whatever. You're in the SEC. You're going to have some tough games.
If you're a Georgia fan, what more can you ask for than an undefeated record at this point?
He looked good.
Winning the rivalry games by a good margin.
Yeah.
As well. They're playing some really good football. I know they'll be really excited to get Brock Bowers back.
As far as their season goes, you can compare their season to Ohio State's very well.
Yeah.
I think. As far as resume goes and as far as offensive play goes and stuff like that. Young quarterback, very new defensive style is pretty much arguably almost the same. Very, very close, if not.
That's an astute observation. I would agree with that. I would say that he's a little better than Kyle McCord, but like you said, first year starter.
Yeah. As far as circumstances going, maybe
maybe not. You're not saying line for line, but it is very similar situation when you are at a program that has such incredibly high expectations.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't want to be Carson Beck right now. That's for sure.
No, not. I don't think a lot of people would. A ton of you look at their recruits in the back. They have Dylan Raiola, who is a Ohio State transfer. Which is kind of crazy in a lot of people's eyes, but. They haven't gained a lot of
something that we don't apparently.
It's weird, It's usually you look at those SEC schools. You look at Georgia in specific. That's a defensive recruiting school. That's not an offensive school. Not really.
No,
Adonai
really
Mitchell left for Texas this past year. Yeah. He didn't believe in Carson Beck apparently.
But he believed leading into that. They believed in Quinn Ewers, and even with him out this weekend, like I mentioned earlier in the show. State of Utah just struggled this weekend. 35-7. Big win for Texas. Number 7 Texas getting a big win against BYU. I think after you drop a game during the season and you want to show people that you are a top 4 team, you need to handle those games pretty well. Comfortably.
Without your starters.
Malik Murphy, he started really well. I was very impressed. The stat lines don't show anything crazy.
Couple of picks that looked a little questionable.
But, a lot of that comes with the lack of experience as well.
Given the circumstances again, yeah. And first game, what are you going to... You're just throwing the kid in there. You gave him a week to prepare with first-team reps.
Week to prepare, but luckily that defense, too. Man.
Thankfully, BYU just, basically craps the bed. As much as the other former AAC teams.
Didn't pray hard enough, soaked too long. God knows.
Sucks.
That's between them and God.
It's between Keaton Slovis and whatever they have going on over there in those mountains.
3 for 14. Hey, that's my birthday. 3/14. 3 for 14
Coincidence?
on third downs. When you have my birthday for your third down conversion, that's
You know,
you're
it's a
not
good day.
you're not winning many games. You're not winning many games. Maybe if you play Sam Houston, but when you're playing when you're playing the Longhorn,
Catching strays.
hey, shout out Rhythm for that spread bet on UTEP against
Those are
Sam
crazy.
Houston.
It was one of those Thursday night games?
Yep, they were down by 3 scores and came back and not only covered the spread but won the game too. I was
Unreal.
1 a.m. had to be at work 4 hours later. I was like, yeah. Try not to wake the wife up.
One
Like
of their better games of the year too.
Yeah,
honestly,
it was tough to watch.
It was awesome.
It was tough to watch, just like the FIU game, because when you're craving ball, you're gonna watch whatever's on during the week, right? So
those middle week games are sleepers, man.
I'm watching Florida National starting quarterback drop back to pass and just loses the ball on the kickback. I'm like, this is still college football. Like this is still college football. It's not raining. It's not cold.
It's Florida.
It's 75 degrees and the humidity is at like 50 degrees. Like, this is a perfect ball temperature and you're just letting the ball slip at it. They still won. At Sam Houston, they still won. But sorry for the stray. They suck at football. They just suck.
0-8, 0-9.
They're bad. They're bad. 0-8. Very bad at football.
I didn't have to say the record, but yeah. Sorry.
Louisville versus Duke.
Dude.
Not the way I expected that game to go, for sure.
I mean, to some maybe yes. Riley Leonard came into that game doubtful, played again on a sprained ankle. Why, for one, are you playing your star quarterback, who is a top 10 quarterback prospect on Kuiper's board?
It's not the same as Joe Burrow when he didn't get paid over $200 million to play ball.
Rest the kid, dude. Come
let
on.
Let him have let him prop his leg up and take a nap. Like let the kid get.
He looked. I mean, like you want to say he looked bad, but you can't help it.
No, it's like Patrick Mahomes playing with the flu, shivering on the sideline. You want him to throw for 300?
Perfect example. When he sprained his ankle on that playoff game.
Exactly. I mean, but
the difference is that he's Patrick Mahomes.
He's him. But he's him. I hate the Kansas City Chiefs, but he is insanely gifted at football.
Yeah, the shutout there, that was a little bit unexpected, I will say. I think Brome, what he's got going on there is really special.
Yeah.
From being at that game as well, Notre Dame game. Very cool atmosphere, surprisingly. I'm not gonna lie. Very underrated atmosphere. Very cool.
Louisville's a sleeper town.
They are. They really are. I mean, really surprisingly good offense. Jamari Thrash, Jawar Jordan, studs on the outside.
He's not LaGoat Jackson, but he played a really good game.
He can get the ball to the people, and he's a good game manager.
He's accurate too.
Plummer knows what he's doing because he's got the experience for it. So good for Louisville. They have a great defense.
Go Cards.
I hope they kind of make
my grandmother-in-law will be very happy. She's from Louisville, so doesn't care about sports. I don't think she actually cares. But
normally I don't root for the people that we lose to, but I mean that's a good culture there.
Only exception is in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's
only
different.
Exception, but. Yeah, Tennessee, Kentucky. That game, man, was something. That was something else.
See, that was one of the closer games that we didn't think was going to happen.
Right.
So
I expected
had a lot of these blowouts.
Right. I expected the margin to be a little bigger. Yeah. But that game came down to the wire too.
They did not cover.
They did not cover. Yeah, the Vols money line. I took that personally.
We were safe on the money line. Yeah.
Thing about Rhythm is. It's so in depth with what it can create for you and craft based off the AI programming that I'm still learning the models myself. And you could adjust your factors on your model depending on what you find most important.
Yeah.
And I think my pick for that was tailored because of the way I set that up. So
for sure,
it was so close. Like they didn't cover, but it was close. Yeah. I mean, what are you gonna do when Tennessee runs for 253 yards? 253. You have 6 to 8 people in the box the whole game, and you still can't. That's incredible. That all the credit to Tennessee for that. That was
difference in
awesome.
that game. I think is Tennessee's defense by far. I think when you're given a running back like Ray Davis from Kentucky who put up 200 yards in one half on Florida, I mean,
absolute boss.
That's tough. And then you come into Tennessee and you only put up 48, 58. One hit wonder.
They drop a really horrible second half to Alabama, but they're still a good football team.
For sure.
They're still a good football team, and I think kind of took that for granted because of Alabama's struggle to find their identity with the young team. I feel like that was...
I was rooting for Tennessee, personally.
I was the first one tweeting fraud alert after that Alabama game.
I would admit it front up. I don't care. I'm a Bama hater. Make it known. But yeah, I was rooting for Tennessee in that game, and it kind of hurt a little bit, not going to lie. But Joe Milton is still Joe Milton. If you want to hear about a hot take, I think that Tennessee actually shakes up the playoff here, beats Georgia at home next month. So
that would be... Book it now. Book it now. Clip it, ship it.
We're going to see some stuff in that game, I believe. They're going to be up without Brock Bowers again during that game. That will be his
What is his timetable for return?
6 to 8 weeks.
So just in time. Just in time.
Very rough stretch for the Bulldogs there.
But yeah, they have a hard schedule coming up.
Very tough.
I'm looking forward to
Final
seeing
stretch.
how they,
Yeah. Prepping for SEC conference championship.
Coaches would say how they handle that adversity.
Yeah.
How you handle the adversity, how you handle the noise. But, I could very much see that happening. I think that...
They did it last year.
Yeah.
They literally did it last year at home.
And I don't think that Georgia necessarily... dropping in that game doesn't necessarily keep them from the playoff.
No. I still think that they would be at least a 4 seed with that conference championship, which they more than likely will win that.
Well, they dropped that game and wouldn't won it all last year.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think that's going to be a great game. Another game that really shocked me personally was... I did not expect the Jayhawks to come out and beat the Sooners. To show you how bad the Kansas football program has been, when I was in high school, I set a sack record at a school with a max capacity of 200 people. I had 9 sacks in one game because we were playing the right guard was 5'8", 150. I'm playing string beans out there. I'm a big guy. I get an offer letter from Kansas asking to come visit the campus. They didn't offer me a scholarship, but they're like, hey, come visit the campus and check out the program. Because they just, I don't know, some scout looked me up in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas. But I'm like, that year, I looked up, they didn't win a game that year. And I'm 25 now, but that wasn't that long ago. And here they are upsetting a team like Oklahoma, which, talk about that Texas-Oklahoma game a few weeks ago. Did the fraud alert alarms set for you earlier than this week?
Me, along with a lot of other people here. I don't know about you. I took that Kansas spread.
I didn't take a spread at all.
I took the Kansas covering that 8. I think that this game was a very
It was
much
set at
so
8?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kansas is tough. They beat Texas 2 years back in Texas.
That's a problem with college football for me.
Was that last year? I think that was last year.
Yeah.
That was last year.
Yeah. That's a problem with college football for me is I work every Saturday morning. So unless it gets busy, I have a limited amount of time to check spreads on games. But I don't really bet on a whole lot of college football. But that still seems like a lot of points.
All right. Here's what I'll say about Oklahoma. Dylan Gabriel, I think, isn't ready to be put anywhere close to a Heisman conversation ever.
They took that Texas game out of context.
They really did. They really did, man. They seriously... I think that Texas win was such a fluke. It was such a fluke. And if you follow Barstool Sports a little, Brandon Walker has been calling the Sooners fake since week 2. And sure enough... sure enough,
you can't discredit the driving it on the field into the fourth quarter, back of the end zone. Still incredible football, but it is one game, and to put him in the Heisman conversation because of that is a little crazy. But he's a great quarterback, very young guy.
Had a decent game.
Lefty.
He ran for 3 touchdowns that game, I believe. Didn't pass for any, passed for 1 maybe.
End of the game. The game-winning touchdown. That's the only one.
Game-winning touchdown before Kansas went down the field. Yeah, that was funny. I remember that. I'm a hater, man. I don't care. But Kansas pretty much took over that game. Running, passing. It almost felt like they wanted to lose that game for a minute, though. Jason Beam throwing 2 interceptions in those final 5 minutes of the game. Somehow still wins. I don't know how. I was watching it and I'm like, oh.
The athletic director was like, they are not putting that goalpost in the lake. Drop the game right now. Yeah. Just to clarify, I thought we were still speaking about the Texas-Oklahoma game when I said game-winning touchdown.
Okay,
but
that's fair.
Yeah,
it's okay.
they were trying. Kansas was trying really hard to lose that game at the end.
They really were, and I don't know how they did it, but they did, and I'm happy that it happened because I love field storings and goalposts.
And I love it as an Ohio State fan who grew up in Fort Smith, Arkansas, literally the border to Oklahoma in my backyard. I just, the way you feel about Alabama is the way I feel about Oklahoma. Yeah. And I'm not even a Razorback. They're just an obnoxious fan base. Maybe, we don't talk Razorbacks. Even Razorback fans don't talk Razorbacks. Go Hogs, man. Yeah. Cool campus. Loved it when I visited. Woo Pig. Remember when they thought they were going to be a contender with KJ?
They were dead.
Yeah, that was tough.
2-6, 2-7.
And but they did play a lot of those games close for a while.
But I mean, it might be time for a coaching change.
They've had so many coaching changes over the last decade, man. It's tough. Well, it's tough to be a Razorback. A lot of my fans are Hogs, and I'm hoping for the best for you guys. I really love the school.
Cool culture.
Been to a lot of Hog games, a lot of Alabama-Arkansas games where Arkansas was this close to pulling it off during prime Bama years. Tua, Jalen, prime Bama years, and they've
always been one of those SEC sleepers.
Sleepers that will not cover the spread but still lose the game.
Went to Pretty SEC much. Sleepers. Yeah. Mizzou.
Yeah.
Where are they at? Where do they come from? Where are they coming from?
I think a lot of people, casual fans like myself, we've talked about this off air, I'm more of an NFL guy. Yeah. I'm very passionate about my Buckeyes. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people like myself don't pay attention to a lot of schools that are unranked. And just because there's a lot of football programs. If you're not in the top 25, that doesn't mean you're not a great football team.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, Mizzou obviously ranked, I believe, 16th, 17th so far this year. Dropping in heartbreaker to LSU earlier this season, which absolutely sucked for that program.
Speaking of LSU, hey, Fournette to the Bills.
Yeah.
How about that?
Whatever.
2 yards a carry.
Congrats. Yeah.
James Cook did not cook.
No. Absolutely not. But I mean, again, Mizzou looks good. Brady Cook, sharp. Tough games coming up against Georgia at Georgia, so we'll see how they do against that. Spread for that one is set at -18, I believe, for the Bulldogs. So we'll see. Cover.
Spreads have not been hitting for me lately, even before rhythm, especially. I feel like with a game of football, it's so hard to gauge that, because a lot of the times too, this is the NFL. You're not going to take your starter out. Right. You're going to try to put points on the board.
For sure.
And there's been so many times where I've seen the last 3 minutes of the game touchdown to not cover the spread. And so it's hard to say. 18.5 does seem like a lot of points. It does seem like a lot of points.
On the road, too.
On the road.
Hostile environment, a bunch of weird students barking at you the entire game. Sorry, those people are so weird, man.
Cracked out Mizzou fans. Just
Stop.
Just like the Browns, bro.
What do we stop?
I will never, ever go to Cleveland for any reason. I'm sorry, I just won't. But yeah, that's gonna be a good one. I think, if I were to have to choose, I would probably take the spread, considering the way that they looked against Florida and the way that they did not cover the +14.
Yeah, I believe so too. I think they handle adversity very well. So yeah, I'll take that -18 a little bit, but not.
If I had to, I would. I'm not going to. Yeah. But if I had to, I would.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't like covering spreads in college football. I'll cover over under.
You can make picks without making the picks,
right?
So it's fine.
I'll hit the over under on mini games, but I'm not hitting the spread on a lot of teams. I almost took the spread on the Ohio State Maryland game because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to this game. I'm not gonna bet on this game. I'm just gonna go and enjoy.
Yeah, it makes it fun.
Enjoy that. Yeah, it does. It does.
Makes it more fun. Makes it a lot more fun.
No, I take that back. I did have one bet for $10 for an anytime Marvin Harrison Jr. touchdown. I took my $6.50 and put it in my back pocket. But yeah, that was a fun game, and I'm really looking forward to a lot of good college football going forward. Is there any other games that you want to cover before we hop into the NFL? Do you want to talk about our Bearcats here in Southwest Ohio?
You can move a little bit quick here with the Bearcats, but I mean, as far as newer Big 12 members here. 3-17 combined record from the newcomers. Are you kidding me? That's tough. UCF, Houston, BYU, UC. 3-17.
It's like that. It's like that one meme. I did this. I did that. I didn't do shit.
Yeah, 2 of them are winless.
That's so insane. Because you think back, it wasn't that long ago that UC was a really good football team.
It was 2020.
2 years ago.
It was
3 years ago. Yeah, Desmond Ritter.
Yes.
They were a good team.
And then all of a sudden Fickle leaves, and it's a dumpster fire program.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why you're going down the Satterfield with that. You don't downgrade in coaches before going to a Power 5. I don't know whose idea that was. That was a terrible decision to let Fickle
Not
walk.
the smartest decision. I have a feeling it might have come down to, this is me speaking with no knowledge of anything, just saying what I think. Probably had to do with some kind of contracts.
There was no really...
You probably
there's not a lot
asking
of
for more than they were
details.
willing to
Yeah, I
pay.
was about to say.
Honestly, is what I would expect.
So.
Luke Fickell, not as a head coach, has an incredible track record too. So he's a great coach.
He's coached at a lot of good places.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously now at Wisconsin, so far so good, 5-3 for him.
Not bad.
Whatever.
Glad to see him in the Big Ten.
Yeah, but back in the Big Ten as well.
Exactly. OH.
But yeah, we'll see how both do. I don't really see UC going much farther with Satterfield.
Hey, don't get me wrong. My wife is a UC alum. We love the Bearcats. Hope to see the program continue to, make some changes where changes might be needed in the off season. But I'm hoping to see them get back to their winning ways because I do love UC. Love Cincinnati. Lived there for a while. It's a great place to be. This episode of Casuals is brought to you by Rhythm. AI-generated picks collected from 3+ years of data to predict the best picks for your game. Start a free trial or buy a subscription. Plans start as low as $14.99 a month or $99.99 annually. This is absolutely worth it if you're starting to take your betting seriously like we are. I mean, it's incredible. Cade, tell me about your bets this week.
So this week, after this week's NFL slate, we're moving on to next Sunday. So one of the first ones that Rhythm has picked out for us is the over 48.5 for the Bills and the Bengals. Obviously, two crazy electric offenses going at this.
Yeah.
This has a 60.2% chance of win probability here with minus 110 on the odds.
And anything over 50-50 in betting is great.
Yeah.
It's great odds.
So 48.5, I honestly like it. The prediction for this one has it going over 51.3. Yeah. For a 60% win probability of that happening with a 15% edge, I'd be putting this over in my parlay this weekend.
I will be putting it over. You'll see me on X talking about it. I will put this over down. Yeah. I don't usually bet on the Bengals, but I will be betting on that over because that feels like it's going to hit.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Rhythm, for sponsoring. We are super excited to be working with you. Let's get into the app. Enough about college football, though, for this weekend. Still got some good games coming up.
Much as I
this
love
next weekend as well.
College football.
It's your passion. I mean, you write college football. Yeah. You breathe college football.
Nowhere of college ball.
Nowhere of college ball. You are not a casual fan when it comes to college ball. I will give you that credit. Going into this weekend in the NFL slate, had some good games. Had some. The battle for New York, I had to click away pretty quickly. I mean, that was Danny DeVito, -1 passing yards. That was a hard watch. Zach Wilson looked like Zach Wilson that game. The rose-colored glasses are off for the Jets, I think. I don't know. They seem to be pretty delusional. Hey, who knows though? Aaron Rodgers already dropping back and throwing passes. That's crazy.
No, that dude is not human.
He's literally defying the odds. Like what did he have to bathe in? What kind of hypnotic therapy did he have to go through to get to the point where he can already do that just a few weeks? What is it, 6 weeks? 6-7 weeks? Like that's crazy. Thursday night football. Yeah. Thursday night football. What is going on with the Bills? I mean, going into this year, just like we do every single year, like this is a top 3 offense, top 5 team, contender for the AFC Championship. Nothing that I've seen from the team makes me feel like they are that team that we thought they were.
And it starts with Josh Allen.
It starts with Josh Allen, absolutely.
And, a lot of people don't think this. I'm going to probably rub some nerves with this one. I'm not going to lie.
Let's see it. Hot takes.
Josh Allen is probably worse than Dak at this point.
Don't look at the jersey.
I'm not. That's not being biased. There's so many more. I promise. There's so many more people.
There is no bigger hater of the Cowboys that I know when they are not being a good team than you. So
That's what I mean. But just like in general, though, like you look at turnovers, Josh Allen has more turnovers. He has a worse passer rating.
That's so weird to say out loud that
because
Josh
people
Allen
don't look at it, man. Nobody checks. You have to check before you talk. Notice how I'm getting mad at this.
You're telling me I have to go look at stats before I tweet? Is Is that what you're asking me to do? Is go look at stat lines before I make a really hot take?
Maybe not even specific.
Okay.
Maybe just like
Bills fans.
Be realistic.
And hey, Bills here. Mafia, I love you guys. You know we have a great relationship, but
he was good in this game. I will say
he did, and that's the whole thing with Josh Allen, right? I'm not sitting here and telling you that he's not a great football player.
He's amazing.
He's a great football player, and we have seen times this year where he's tried to reel it back a little bit. Because the thing about Josh Allen is his problem and his biggest criticism in years past has been he tries to make the big play every play, and that's why he turns the ball over so much.
Look at week 1. They were in full control of that game. And then he throws 2 or 3 picks. Was it 2 or 3 picks?
Yeah.
In the second half? Or 1 in the first? Whatever. You can't do that.
Stephon Diggs is on the sideline just
can't do
beating up a trainer.
Jets. I mean, granted the Jets made some upgrades, but I mean,
yeah.
For a team that has so much hype built around them, I don't think that you should be doing that almost every other week. Because it's funny. 1 week...
They're frauds.
Like this week, perfect example.
Right.
324 yards, 303 touchdown passes, 1 rushing touchdown. Good game. Solid game. 1 pick, tip drill, big whoop, whatever. Last week, they're like tanking for Caleb at that point almost. It's like that level.
That's okay. Yeah, that's.
It's the most inconsistent team in the NFL.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is like when you're not a Bills fan and you're watching this team, when they are clicking and they're firing in all cylinders, they're
scary.
The Dolphins are the only other team that are more fun to watch at this point than the Bills. When their offense is clicking, Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, just a really fun team to watch. They can't seem to figure it out at running back. They haven't for the past few years.
Which
it's all right.
Do they need it?
You got a Mack truck at quarterback running and QB draw.
Do you seriously need it?
Exactly.
No, I mean,
but Josh Allen, I love Josh Allen. I love watching him play. He's really fun to watch play.
I like him a lot.
I share the same sentiment that you do though. I think we're gonna have another Stephon Diggs watching the confetti fall. Actually, there's gonna be no confetti because it won't be the AFC Championship. It's gonna be round 1, maybe 2, depending on who they play and where they're seated.
Realistic, yeah.
If we're being realistic,
I don't see them making it that far again.
And when I have my take for my Bengals, I'm not going to be realistic because we are all the way back. But for the Bills, I will be realistic and say, I mean, Stephon Diggs, does he enter? Does he ask for a trade? I almost said enter the transfer portal. Does he? Does he ask for a trade after the season too? Because even in games where he's getting targeted, they're circling. They have been, and you can't really say what's going on the sideline.
Can you blame him?
It looks like he's like, you know what? To hell with this team. I hate Josh Allen. I'm so tired of being here. He could just be frustrated because, when I was a football player, I was an external processor. Yeah. I would scream, I'd get frustrated, I'd bang my helmet. Most of the times that's frustration with myself too.
We get it. Yeah.
And so we get it. We get it, right? But they just got some things to figure out. I really hope,
There's a lot of people that think he's a diva. There's just like a lot of personal things probably in that conversation that I'm sure are having a little bit of
Stephon Brown, Antonio Diggs.
Yeah, it's like they're like kind of like almost weighing a little bit equal here, but I mean again, Diggs is still Diggs. Josh Allen is still Josh Allen.
And I want to say when I give this criticism, I'm not telling you that they're not a great football team because they can be.
Oh, they're a top football team in this league.
Absolutely. And they're not consistently great. They're good. They're always good, but they're not consistently great. Right. I don't think you'll watch a Bills game this year where they lose by 3-4 touchdowns. Absolutely. But I think that you can see a Bills team that if they don't figure it out, they might win 9 games this year.
They're going to be in some deep trouble.
Yeah. And that's going to be a problem too. And I think, there's going to be a lot of questions at head coach if this is what the fourth, how many years since Josh Allen was drafted? 4 or 5?
It's weird because it's actually been a while now.
Honestly. It's been a while now, and we gave him that time the first 2 years, being like, he's still new, he's a young guy.
We gave him a lot of time because those first couple of years, he was like really underground still, not getting kind of figuring some stuff out. Buffalo in general was figuring some stuff out.
Yeah, not from one of those top schools in college. He's not from Alabama. He's not from Ohio State. He's not.
He was a top pick for a reason though.
Right.
At the end of the day. Right. So I mean, you kind of get to give credit where credit is due.
When I'm building a player on Madden, I want it to look like Josh Allen or Justin Herbert. He's just that guy. He's a great football player. They just got something to figure out.
He did bring the team back. We can all agree that he brought the team back probably 100%. But
that game though was so annoying. That was so annoying. Of course, I take the spread on the Bills, which hear me now. This is the last time I will ever do that. I'm sitting here. I'm texting him. I'm like, bro, we are like 5 for 5 tonight. This is so sick. I've won all my other bets today. Like, this is awesome. Literally, face mask on 4th down. Gets him a free first down.
As he's going down.
Gives him a free first down. Didn't even need to touch the man in the face. Like, literally his body weight. That dude was 350 pounds. He doesn't need to be doing all that, right? No. And it's not like they're going to lose the game because of that, but they're going to go and let them get a first down on a 4th down that should have been the game right there. Should have been game over. And then Mike Evans off the dude's helmet falling backwards on 4th and 10 to not cover this. I was so pissed, bro.
Legacy touchdown catch to save my fantasy.
To save your fantasy.
But
to keep him, that's
we
another.
Were still upset.
How many games for him? That's a couple games in a row this season with a touchdown, at least. I'm not a Buccaneers
at least like 3 to 4
analyst,
but I mean, again, as far as like his career goes, reaching 8 or 9 consecutive seasons, having 1,000 yards or more. This year with Baker, kind of up on the table a little bit, putting that streak in jeopardy. But we'll see how it plays out. But didn't have a great game.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, with that. How much of that is on Baker Mayfield, and how much of that is on their absolutely abysmal offensive line? Because if you're watching that game, Baker's not a big guy.
No,
he's not that much taller than me. He's not a big guy. When you can barely see over your offensive lineman and you're running for your life all game, I mean, he scrambled half of that game. It was tough to watch. If you're a Buccaneers fan, I'm sorry. I like Baker Mayfield, even though he played in the flag at Ohio State. I'll never forgive him for that. He's just a fun guy to watch.
Playing in the flag, he's a Cleveland Brown.
Tough competitor.
There's a lot of things to hate about this guy for living where we are.
Gave the Browns their first playoff win in how long?
Yeah.
Just for him to be disrespected. He's like, oh, you're injured? Let me have you throw 40 times. Kevin Stefanski just has something against his quarterbacks, but we won't get into that.
Yeah.
Poverty franchise, Deshaun Watson. I don't have anything good to say about them other than their defense is phenomenal. I can't disregard that. That's phenomenal defense. Fair. Struggled this weekend, but Myles Garrett is literally constructed in a lab. He is not a human being. He reminds me of dude. That was so hard. That didn't even get covered too on like ESPN or Bleacher Report. Yeah. Like I'm like, dude, this is tough.
I seen one video and I was like, yep, never again blocking that from my feed because I was frightened. Yeah.
Like how many field goals is he gonna block today? Like how many? Like he's just gonna straight vert over a grown man like that. That's just the crazy from a 4-point stance too. That's just the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Back to Deshaun Watson though. I mean, does the guy like football? At this point, I mean, seriously?
Like, I'm the first person to sit here and talk shit about the Browns. I hate the Browns, right?
We hate them.
But the thing about it, though, it's like, it's one of those tough things that, like, if you're not him, you don't know what it really is like.
Right. I
mean, you saw it last year. You know, he can't stay healthy. But what he was in this year, he looked really uncomfortable. I mean, what was it against... the team's escaping me, but he was like 4 for 6 through 2 picks. Was it the Colts?
Before he got hurt?
Yeah, like 2 picks. P.J. Walker comes in.
I don't think he played in the Colts game.
Might have been the game before that. I don't remember, but whatever game he came in and briefly started. 2 for 6 with 2 picks and like 6 yards, and then came out of the game.
Yeah.
Obviously missed this game too.
Hurt shoulder. People say what they want. I mean, he was supposed to be a really good quarterback this year.
Right.
Why?
They paid a lot of money for that guy too.
We have no idea why. The question is still on the table.
The Browns are like...
The question's over here, and we just pushed it outside.
You said it's on the table. What kind of table are you talking about? Massage table? Or... So the thing about it with with Deshaun Watson, it's like... The Browns embraced the controversy. They really did. Yeah. Like, obviously, I mean, we remember him all the way back since Clemson. Like, he's a good football player. He really is. He's athletic. Yeah. He can launch the ball.
Popular name in the sports world.
Right. He's really good at making plays, too. He's really good at making plays. But the thing about it's like, not only did you embrace that controversy and embrace someone who has shown that they can't stay healthy, you didn't just, like, pay him a good contract. You spent a bag on him.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think you should be spending Joe Burrow kind of money on Deshaun Watson, but that's what was it, $180 million or something close to that? Like,
honestly, I don't really know the details of the contract. All I know is that it was not worth it, obviously. But
$230 million,
even more than what
a fully guaranteed 5-year, $230 million contract. It remains the only one of its kind, with the rest of 2023 due to be paid in full and another 3 years to go. The Browns gave up 3 first-round picks to acquire Watson and signed him to a fully guaranteed 5-year, $230 million contract. That's like great value Dak contract. Like, you're still seeing some results from Dak. The thing when Dak has a bad game, he'll come back and have a great game the next day, right? Like, so the thing about it, it's like you have no options.
Right.
He has to play great or you're screwed.
Yeah.
Or you pay him $230 million a year to call plays from the sideline for PJ Walker.
You have no offense when you have.
You can't afford to pay anybody else to come in.
Yeah. I mean, your best weapon, Cooper. I mean,
Amari Cooper is still him though. He still is a good football
very
player.
sad about the trade. Really wish Jerry did not let him walk, but glad to see him doing well. I would love to have him back. Well, I don't know. I'm having flashbacks to 2019, 20.
He's a good football player. I really like watching him play, except for when it's against the Bengals, because you could have a 5th grade teacher at quarterback for the Browns against the Bengals. The Browns will still find a way to beat us. That's just how it's been. It's probably how it always is going to be.
It's just the rivalry.
It is what it is.
It's
I mean, this year they played in horrible conditions. It rained the whole time. It was super wet. Joe Burrow was playing on one leg. It is what it is. We realized after the fact, hindsight's 2020, but, first 4 games of the season were really rough, really hard to watch as a Bengals fan, but we are so back.
Happens every year, man.
We are so back.
It's literally every year.
When the weather gets cold and the snow starts to fall, the wind starts to blow.
Prime.
The Bengals are in full-fledged. They're in prime shape. Literally. For sure.
That's all they needed. I don't want to say that they needed this win, but necessarily, but even going back to last week, Jamar had, I think it was a career game. Yeah. Was it 3 touchdowns?
Yeah. He set the record for most receptions in a game.
That's what it was. Comes back this week, puts up another touchdown.
No, I'm sorry, that was against the Cardinals. 13 receptions. Okay, yeah. 13 receptions.
Cardinals having a good bounce back game.
Right.
That's what you needed. Was against, as much as it was against the Cardinals, whatever. That's what you needed that win. You absolutely needed that win.
Against
come back this
Joshua
week.
Dobbs, you needed that win.
Yeah,
for sure.
Whatever, but still, come back this week. Probably, arguably one of the top 2, top 3 defenses in the league. Again, Burrow, sharp as ever. Jamar, 100 yards even with a touchdown. Amazing backflip.
Growing up a Cincinnati Bengals fan, I'm from Cincinnati, born there, not raised there. I spent most of my life in the South, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia. Mm-hmm. We were so bad at football, half of the people I talked to about the NFL didn't even know what a Bengal was. They're like, who? Who is that? I'm like, Andy Dalton, Chad Johnson, Ocho Cinco. They're like, I know who that is. Like that's all we had.
Yeah.
We had Ocho Cinco, then we had AJ Green.
That was it.
Right. When you go your whole life having a quarterback that can't win you a championship, when that's good enough to get an extension but not good enough to take you all the way. I cannot imagine being more in love with a franchise quarterback than the Bengals are right now. Especially now, we live on the outskirts. We're in Southwest Ohio, but not in Cincinnati. When I was there, living there last year, living 6 minutes from Paycor, he was everywhere. Everywhere. Yeah. Shirts, hats, billboards, signs, even local places just had things named after him.
Face of the franchise. That is the definition of it. He is absolutely taking over the city. For the better. And that's the comparison with Tom Brady. Yeah. Is he became the face of the franchise when he became who he was. They need to do the exact same thing, and they need to keep him and keep what's around him. And obviously, within some time, you will see some heavy success.
Yeah, I without a shadow of a doubt, I see a Joe Burrow MVP and a Bengals Super Bowl before he retires.
I believe this most recent game and past 2 games, whatever, we'll say it, puts him back in the MVP conversation probably.
Absolutely. When you see Joe Burrow move in the pocket like he does, I personally don't know of anyone else who can move in the pocket and stay within the pocket like that. Yeah. Of course, you have Lamar Jackson, who, he can outrun almost anyone on the field.
Absolutely.
But a lot of the times he uses his legs and he leaves. He passes the line of scrimmage and he picks up 10, 15 yards. Joe Burrow moves around in the pocket. He's throwing Nick Bosa Defensive Player of the Year last year off of his shoulders, and then making a big play
Darts.
to a first down that led to a touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, I was jumping up and down. My grandma's
Yeah.
dog was barking at me, biting my ankles because I was gritting across the kitchen. Like, I was just like so excited to have him back because you saw the last few weeks he started to warm up, started to feel a little better. He's massaging that calf on the sideline. Right. But then now he is all the way back. We are so back. Over 300 total yards passing and rushing. I mean, that was just a great performance. The closest thing in the NFL that you can get to a perfect performance as a quarterback. I think he was, if I'm not mistaken, 28 for 32, maybe 34, 28 for 32, I believe. Had a passer rating of like 138 for 3 tuds. Like, it was a great night. And, I'll talk about Jamar Chase all day long. 7-Eleven. I hope he wears that chain until the day that he dies, bro.
Awesome.
Like, the cleanest thing I've ever seen. By far. The coolest end zone touchdown celebration picture that I've seen all season. The only the stupid red shirt in the way. The only thing close to that would be Tyreek Hill taking the phone and doing the backflip with the phone. True. That was cool, but literally the upside down cross with the back was just so clean. It was so clean. I don't think the upside down cross was intentional, but that's the best comparison I can. Yeah, don't take that at face value. He's got arms attached to his leg to keep his momentum going backwards. Let's take that at face value.
Yeah,
but my biggest thing as a Bengals fan is our offensive line has got a lot of hate over the last few years. Yeah. We spent a lot of money on them the year before last. Lost some of those players. Yeah. Some of them stayed within the AFC North playing for our rivals now.
Right.
Which you can have them. Don't care.
Whatever.
But, this offensive line has looked great. Orlando Brown Jr.
Very impressive.
Ted Karras, Teddy Football. They should have let him take off. And that was a fumble. They called it dead on the field, but the internet would have broke if he would have ran that to the house. Yeah. He had 38 pass blocking snaps, no pressures, no sacks allowed. Just an absolutely great performance.
The improvement is unreal.
Unreal. We played some of our best football we played the best football we played all year in Santa Clara, and it was wonderful.
Absolutely.
And Brock Purdy didn't really move the ball down the field a lot in that first half. It's crazy how good an athlete is when you say this was a quiet night for Christian McCaffrey. 17 games in a row now, 58 yards. Great performance,
Scored
again, of course. That's inevitable. Life, death, and taxes, and Christian McCaffrey scored a touchdown. But, Brock Purdy threw for over 300. George Kittle, he had 195? 145, something like that.
Granted, Tebow's not there, but, again.
Granted, also, a lot of that happened at the end of the game. Right. A lot of that happened in the fourth quarter.
Brock making it somewhat happen.
Yeah. And, I was amongst the fans, or the sports fans in the sports world that were saying, his completion percentage and the way he looked after that tush push attempt last week was a result of a concussion. Yeah. But when he's cleared to play and comes back, Logan Wilson is one of my favorite players on this football team.
Right.
And he threw it straight to him.
He did.
You have the route across the middle, but Logan Wilson's just staying home right in the middle of the field, and it's just he's right there. He's hard to miss. He's a big guy. He's right. It was a pretty tough pick. He had some really good throws at the end of the game, but I think he's just when you have such an incredible start to your career as a starting quarterback,
puts a lot on your shoulders.
It's a lot on your shoulders. It's very reminiscent of being like the starting quarterback at Georgia.
I love Brock as a guy, as a person. Brock was. I would say that I know him.
Very humble guy, Christian guy.
Is awesome. He's a cool guy.
He's got a roommate who he shares an apartment with one of his teammates, and his fiance. Great guy. I really like him personally. I've been saying this about the 49ers since the beginning of the season. There's a reason they always start undefeated. Yeah. They are the most physical football team in the league. They hit so hard. Fred Warner is literally a heat-seeking missile.
Absolutely is.
Trey Greenlaw,
absolutely.
They're incredible. But they play so hard, they're just inevitably going to get hurt. And that's why at the end of the season, the NFC Championship game was such a fluke. The football gods were not on their side. Yeah. When you lose all of them in the first quarter, Brock, Debo, who else did we lose? Fred Warner as well. I think a lot of that was a result of how hard they played during the year. Yeah. But they're an incredible football team, and they'll figure it out. They'll be there at the end.
I think so.
I don't think anybody's discrediting them. I can say that they're not the best team in the NFC anymore.
Unfortunately.
Eagles would probably take that.
It is what it is, but yeah.
And we might be saying after next week, depending on how the Cowboys play, that maybe there's a...
It's like the fattest question mark that like the NFL world has ever seen right now, I think. But yeah, again, time will tell. We will see.
As a Cowboys fan, you might be glad to hear that after Greg Kittle raised his shirt and said F Dallas, they are now 0-3. So maybe Jerry Jones made a couple of calls. Maybe he made some deals, but...
Bulletin board material right there. That's all we'll say.
Micah Parsons said, okay, all right.
He did. He was very upset about that a lot. Like, I mean, I think it's kind of funny. Personally.
What is this podcast called again?
I don't...
He comes on every Sunday night. That dude has a lot to say, but he is a dog. Like, he's really good at football.
Like he's like one of the only players that can back it up.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most.
A lot of crap.
He reminds me a lot. He reminds me a lot of like
really
Richard Sherman, or you know, like a Jalen Ramsey, where they'll talk that talk and then they'll go back it up on the field.
Absolutely.
But to close out about the Bengals game, we are all the way back. Stop acting surprised when we start the season with losses and come back and are in the AFC Championship.
Especially with their own fans.
Just stop acting surprised. We knew it was going to happen. My wife does not really care about sports. She likes playing them. She doesn't like watching them. She doesn't like watching people hit each other. You know, she's just a very gentle person. I told her, I'm like, when we dropped the first 2 games of the season, I'm like, babe, it's okay. This always happens. We're going to get it back. We're going to be there.
Yeah.
I love my father-in-law because first half of the first game of the season, he texts me, it's over. We suck. It's over. And the first thing I texted him yesterday was, we're so back. We are so back. The biggest thing that I'm excited to see now is, you know, Joe Mixon, pretty low average yards per carry as a running back of his caliber, but he had an incredible night last night. When he's running downfield like that, it's going to be really hard to stop our offense because when you know that Joe Mixon can pick up 5, 6, 7 yards on a carry, and then you got T. Higgins and Jamar Chase on the outside, it's a dangerous offense, and it's really hard to cover because Jamar Chase will beat you on the outside like that. Like it's a really fun team to be a fan of. We've come a long way from Andy Dalton, I love it.
So I can not be more happy for the city. Honestly, I mean
we needed it too, man.
They really deserve it.
It's so big for our local economy to be that guy. Yeah. It's huge. It really is. It's huge. And like you have FC Cincinnati too. Like we just won 3-0 last night.
The brand in general. I mean the Reds are on the rise a little bit. I mean,
you see it low market value areas, like you have your Indianapolis and your Cincinnati and what's another team, for example, your Utahs. Like traditionally their teams are not that good.
Right.
You know, like historically, and I think it's a lot of the times these players don't want to come to these small markets. But when you see these small market teams become big markets, like the Bengals, for example, like it's really good for the sport. And as a Bengals fan, I'm so happy to see that I can sit down, watch a game, and be like, you know what? We're probably going to win this game, or we might win this game.
Yeah, it's nice to know.
It's nice to be up 14 in the fourth quarter and be like, I think we're going to win this game.
Yeah,
how many times did I watch the Steelers score 3 touchdowns in 6 minutes against the Bengals in the fourth quarter in my whole life? Like, to wrap it up, we're back. Houday. Joe Burrow is him. I'll see you in the AFC Championship. Probably to lose to the Chiefs, but we'll be there. We'll be there.
I don't know.
Or the Dolphins.
I don't know.
The Dolphins, perhaps?
Dolphins look good.
Are they here to stay?
Probably the most fun team right now.
Most fun for sure.
I
love Mike McDaniel, bro. He's not only just a fun guy.
They're amazing.
He's a fun guy, but he's a good coach, and you can tell the team really likes playing for him.
Absolutely. I mean, Tyreek is probably one of the most electric players in the NFL right now, if not
the best receiver in the league right now.
We'll just say
and arguably going into the season even. He's the hardest to guard in the league.
There was a lot of questions this year about Tua coming off multiple horrifying injuries. I mean, all the stuff that happened.
I mean, we watched the Bengals Dolphins last year, and he just collapsed. It was hard to watch.
Very scary. But, I mean, he's back.
Yeah, so back.
Tua is awesome.
So back.
Tua is awesome.
Highest passer rating across the season so far, average.
It's not just...
His lowest this week, too, which is still pretty high.
Yeah. It's not just Tua and Tyreek and Waddle. Mostert.
A-Chan. Yeah.
Come on.
Out of where? That's what out of where, by the way.
The rookie A-Chain is a stud. Yeah. I loved him.
Excited to see him get healthy and be back on the field for sure.
Yeah, that was brutal loss, but I mean, again, Mostert is filling those shoes with ease right now.
Which I think Raheem Mostert is a good example of a player that in the right system is like 10 to 12 Madden points better than he was on any other team.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
he's been a good back in the league for a while,
Yeah.
but he's not playing like a good running back. He's playing like a great running back.
He was solid in San Francisco as
Right.
like that elusive guy that everybody relied on.
Good receiving
using
back.
him as that like elusive running back now.
Right.
Not some dude that's on the screen popping out every play. Yeah, he still gets a lot of receptions a game. That's awesome. It's good for him. But now they've developed him into like a ground and pound, bounce to the outside, gain like 15 yards almost. He's almost like a guaranteed like 6-7 yards like a play for him. Almost. I would seriously say.
Coming into this season, I did not think that there would be a better receiving core in the AFC than the Bengals, and I've been proven wrong every week.
It's actually a little. It's a
Tyreek,
little
Cheetah is him, of course. We knew that going into the season. Jalen Waddle's an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
Robbie chosen. Having Robbie Anderson chosen at the 3 slot is kind of crazy to think about if you look at his track record.
Right.
And then now you add, who's their 4th? With Braxton Berrios as well.
Braxton.
Young Wes Welker, essentially.
Amazing squad.
Very incredible
dude.
player. Like, this is just such a fun team to watch.
On both sides of the ball too.
Exactly.
They made some moves. They had a Jalen Ramsey.
I think that
First game back pick.
and Jamar Chase, like the last 2-3 weeks, has been himself again.
Yeah.
But I think if you're speaking about the season overall, there are the top is Tyreek and AJ Brown, and then everyone else.
Right now, they're in like a
World of their own. World of their own by a mile too. They're showing that there is a certain caliber of athlete that can carry a team even when they're not playing well. I mean, Dolphins-Patriots game, you saw it. Like they
absolutely.
weren't playing their best ball. And then he said,
"No, everybody."
He said,
I remember because I was watching. Oh, I forget what game I was watching. I was watching Jacksonville and Pittsburgh. You text me because I had Miami on the spread that game.
Yeah.
You text me, "Oh my God, the Patriots are doing it again," and I'm like, "Stop talking."
and Tyreek is like, "Just throw me the ball, bro.
Yeah.
Just throw it down."
Then I wake up and they're up 31-17.
Tyreek is just so inhumanly fast. If you saw last week against the Panthers, he had that catch where he dropped it because he was running so fast that he brought the ball into his knee and launched the ball. He's just running so fast. They're such a fun team to watch. They will definitely be in it at the end of the game or at the end of the season. They still don't have, I've heard some other people talk about it. Like they haven't had that statement win yet. Obviously, didn't look great against the Eagles.
Blown out by the Bills.
So
Again, going back to
it's
Bills,
easy.
whatever,
It's
but,
easy
yeah.
to with the schedule they've had minus those 2 games. It's easy to look as good as they've done when they have that kind of talent. I'm waiting to see them win a tough game and control a tough game comfortably.
And I believe it comes this Sunday.
Yes.
Playing in Frankfurt. First game in Germany, I believe. I think.
Yes.
Maybe not the first.
I think they had
but-
maybe one last season. I'm speaking out of turn.
Probably.
Los Gates, Deutschland.
But Kansas City's favored by 3. I don't think Kansas City wins this game.
I don't think that Kansas City wins this game for 2 reasons. Number one, coming off of a really rough game in Denver.
Oh my goodness.
Obviously due to Patrick Mahomes being sick. I don't know the details of that situation. I don't know if there's reports on it.
Very last minute.
Obviously had to get IV, shivering on the sidelines. Like, dude was obviously not feeling well.
Yeah.
But knowing Patrick Mahomes, he probably made that call. He probably wanted to play.
I mean, you can't really make it an excuse. I mean,
You can't tell Patrick Mahomes
at
you're
the end of the day, he chose what he
Hall
chose.
of Fame quarterback to not play if he wants to play.
Whatever.
Obviously.
It is what it is, and they paid for it. But,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to go out and kind of risk Chad Henne in a division game. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, you're going to at least try to go for a division game, which I completely understand the decision. But what happened, and it was very, very, I think it was very shocking to say the least.
Russ looked good.
Russ
looked good.
Denver defense looked good, allowing 70 points to the Dolphins.
Denver defense looked like the team we expected them to be at the beginning of the year.
3 to 4 weeks ago, 70 points.
I didn't think Sean Payton coming in was going to magically fix everything, but I definitely didn't expect them to have the beginning that they had.
Sean Payton's a good coach. I think if you give him some time, I think they at least break 500.
We're coming up really close. We got about 16 hours before the trade deadline. I think it's 4 p.m. tomorrow.
First
Probably
trade of the day
will be out by the time this episode drops tomorrow. But I don't know if they shop Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton. I don't know what you do after a game like that. Obviously everyone was saying ship him off. Steve Smith, son, Jerry Jeudy, get him out of there, blah blah blah. But like, the thing about it is when you have a flash game like that, do you think that you have a team to maybe finish the year at 500 and play competitive football? You don't have the draft picks. You gave them away with Russell Wilson.
I mean, I think they have the players to do so, but I don't think they have the coaches to do so.
Right.
Patrick Surtain's one of the most amazing defensive backs in this league right now, despite how young he is. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, you can say what they want. They're somewhat good enough wide receivers to hold their own weight with Russell Wilson. Like it's a good wide receiver system. I mean, pretty much you can kind of say it's the equivalent of not the equivalent. Pretty close to DK and Tyler though.
Yeah.
Back in Seattle. Pretty close. I mean, DK's nowhere close to anywhere as he used to be, as we know.
I think a lot of that can come down to mental too. Like you've seen him very visibly frustrated every week.
Russ obviously I think is doing astronomically better than last year.
This season statistically, he's played good football.
Yeah.
He's played good football. And if you even just look at the tapes, he's throwing better balls than he threw last year. I don't know what was going on with Russell Wilson last year, doing high knees on the plane while people are trying to save. That was the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Changing scenery, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The thing about it, Denver is one of those teams that, they have a lot of talent. Obviously, every NFL team has a lot of talent. They're in the NFL for a reason. They have a lot of talented athletes that aren't playing very good as a team. Right. I think the closest comparison you could draw right now is the Washington Commanders. There's a lot of names on that team where you'd be like absolute studs, athletes. Chase Young, Terry McLaurin, Sam Howell's a great athlete. They just can't win games.
It's weird because you want to look at Ron Rivera and you're like, is it the coaching issue? Because they've went through.
Ron Rivera literally looks like Mitch McConnell sometimes. Like he's sitting there like, why didn't you throw a flag on that fourth down to call it? He's like,
dude,
I didn't see it on the jumbotron. What do you like? Is that? What is that the standard for coaching?
I think the only the weird thing is that the biggest question in Washington right now is Sam Howell really the guy?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, he looked great. Great.
I think that we know Philly. That Ron Rivera's already on his way out. I mean, I think that's a given.
Yeah.
New owner? No, not new owner, new GM.
Yes.
New GM in Washington. I really like Sam Howell. Personally, I think that they know he's the guy.
Yeah.
I think that what you do with him first is bolster the offensive line first and see how he plays.
Around him.
Because if you watch that game, when he has time in the pocket, he'll pick you apart.
397 yards.
And the Commanders will always play the Eagles close. It's always going to be that way.
Yeah.
They did not look good to start, but Jalen Hurts, I mean, it's overshadowed by a close game, but he played an incredible game on Sunday.
Both of them did.
They both played really well.
They really did.
A.J. Brown with the craziest catch of the day
A.J.
for
Brown,
sure.
again, going back to the Tyreek conversation, 6 games over 100 yards.
Unreal.
6 games over 100 yards? Seriously? That's unheard of in almost in today's world. That's very hard to do in the NFL. In the NFL, it's hard. Marv is 2 games away from doing it in college, and I mean, people are going crazy. But credit to Marv, whatever. In the NFL, completely different story.
Yeah.
Completely different story.
I mean, you've seen it with Jackson. It took him 5 games, 6 games to get comfortable. Yeah. I mean, he didn't do... I think he had 11 yards against the Bengals.
Notice that I'm giving credit where credit is due. I'm not a hater. I just hate Philly fans, by the way. So, A.J. Brown's phenomenal.
This is coming from a Cowboys fan who's also a Phillies fan. So, this is coming from a Cowboys fan. So, going back to the original point we were starting at, I think the Chiefs dropped the game against the Dolphins. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to get completely healthy by the time they play. And the thing about it too, the thing about it too, you have to notice that in these games in Europe, in England, and then now in Germany this week, you're not going to play like you've been playing all season. It's an outlier game for a reason. Again. Exactly.
The Bills again.
There's a reason the Jaguars stayed for 2 weeks and then won that week too. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's not a coincidence. It's a hard adjustment to make. There's so many hours
tough.
Ahead.
You're
playing probably 6 a.m. local time, for what you're used to.
Probably.
Yeah, something close to that. I'm just doing the math off the top of my head, but it's gonna be a tough game. I think both teams are gonna. I think it's gonna be a slow start for what we're expecting.
That's what I know. It's going to be weird. Because
Taylor Swift goes on tour, so she's not going to be there.
Yes.
Yes. No, but the thing about it, honestly, regardless of your opinion on Taylor Swift or not, when she's in the building, Travis Kelce's going plus 100, getting a ton every game. When she's not there, he's like, what, 40, maybe 50 yards.
They did that graphic, and like everybody's eyeballs were as big as golf balls.
He's literally like Jordan Poole when he sees a baddie on the sideline. He's like, I'm gonna lock in. I'm like courtside. Yeah, but it's going to be a good game, I think. I think it's going to be more defensive than people probably realize, especially when you go overseas. That's tough. It's a tough adjustment to make.
For sure.
Chuck Pagano, on Pat Mack was talking a couple weeks ago how, like, those Eagle games, they're doing their walkthrough at the hotel on Saturday. Like, it's a hard adjustment to make because, regardless if you're playing away or home when you're in the States, you have the same routine. You have the field, you have the time and the energy because it's in the same kind of time zones, and 2 to 3 hour difference is not much, not much compared to going completely different continent to play football. So, that's going to be an interesting game. We have a long day of football this Sunday. I'm really excited. We'll talk a lot more about it in a later episode this week. It's going to be a lot of fun to talk about.
Can't wait to preview those games.
I don't want to breeze by it though before we are approaching 2 hours here, but we're going to take the time and we're going to talk about your Cowboys because they need to get some credit because it is due for sure. It is due for sure, especially after all the questions about Dak, about your defense after Stephon Gilmore. Like, you guys looked incredible this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things because Cowboy fans are known to be delusional. Everybody knows it.
Yes.
Everybody knows it.
My dad's a Cowboys fan.
We're trying to get our hopes up here.
Yeah.
Personally. I mean, look who you got next week. You go into the road, you're playing Philly. This isn't like some joke anymore.
Tough.
Like, you gotta, you're coming off a 43-point win, going into Philly, you're feeling great, but you gotta be careful, not to get cocky, because if there's one thing I learned about this team, their heads after a win, period. Boom! It's just
Micah Parsons I'll see you in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Going on his podcast or whatever. Again, talking all that crap.
Then you got Tyreek playing Madden 2 hours after it. Literally playing Fortnite, playing Madden, just chilling. He didn't just play a full football game, but
right.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. Yeah. I don't think we're going to see a blowout on either side. No. I don't see the Eagles losing at home against the Cowboys this week. You guys will play again. That, right. That'll be a different story.
Usually, it's been a very long time that, I remember that we've seen a competitive... Because obviously, Jalen Hurts didn't play last year when he was in Dallas. Right. So it's been a very long time.
Garner-mania, baby.
Yeah, and he still put up a dogfight.
Yeah.
So it's been a very long time that I can remember Dallas versus Philly, a clean sweep of the season, but it was pure domination. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's always win one, drop one.
Dude, it's just the NFC East. It's the same thing with the Commanders.
We're fine with that. I mean, some people, they're gonna hate it, but as long as you don't get swept, you're fine in the division. Whatever. Yeah. People can say this is a must win. It's not a must win.
That's I'm not hitting the panic button after losing to the Browns and the Ravens.
No.
We'll still see him again.
We'll
see him again. We'll see him hopefully in the snow. We'll see him with a healthy Joe Burrow. Right. So I'm looking forward to that game. Ravens Bengals this year is going to be insane.
Right.
Come the second time around.
For sure.
But you guys have long seasons ahead of you. I'm just preparing all the Cowboys fans, probably 10 people watching this first episode max, but all one of you right now that you'll hear the fraud talk again. That's all that ESPN First Take, that's all they're going to talk about. You drop that game, it's going to be Dak is a bum, this team sucks. Then you'll come back the week after, you'll win that game, and then you'll be fine.
I think that...
It's a long season.
I think at least that he probably does throw at least one or two next week, without a doubt. That's just me. But, I mean, again, you go back to this week, he had a great week. Looked at his old self again. Yeah. 304 passing yards, 4 touchdowns.
Forget about the interception, too. He looked incredible.
Yeah, it was whatever. It was tipped off of his guy's helmet, whatever. CD went insane and made me lose in fantasy this week, but it is what it is.
Of course, the one game that he's goes off for 150 and 2 touchdowns. That. He did. He did. Absolutely. I wish it would have been when I wasn't facing him in fantasy, but he definitely needed that. Your special teams looked insane. They had a day.
Amazing.
Turpin, that was incredible. I thought he was going to take it to the house. That punt block.
Yeah. Sam Williams.
I don't understand how as an offensive lineman that's getting paid millions of dollars that you decide not to block on a special teams play. Maybe he's in the 6 figures. I don't know, but it's Los Angeles. I imagine it's at least $1 million.
Right.
$1 million, maybe 2.
Right.
But when you just don't block on a punt, especially back pinned against your end zone, that was very interesting. But all credit to the Cowboys. You guys played all around incredible football.
Defense showed out again. I mean, it's shutting down Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua.
Good to see Micah Parsons crawling around again.
Down. It was. I mean, I want to say I was shocked. I was shocked.
I can't remember what Cooper did. He had 30.
It was 3 catches.
Puka
maybe had 4. I mean, look at Deron Bland filling in shoes for Trayvon Diggs.
He had a game too.
Terrible loss. Trayvon Diggs, losing him at the beginning of the year.
I said Stephon Gilmore
in practice.
I meant Trayvon Diggs.
It's all good. But if there's one guy that's filled the biggest shoes, it's obviously Deron Bland.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp 21 yards, Puka Nacua 43 yards. Their leading receiver was Darrell Henderson.
Their second string
running back. Super Bowl champion, by the way. Pat Mac champion.
Whatever.
Super Bowl champion. Give him credit where it's due, but good for him. Wish he would have won that bowl, but I cried about it, and I will no longer shed tears over that game. It's been 2 years, but you guys looked phenomenal. Very happy for you as a Cowboys fan.
Want to hear something crazy? Huh. You want to know how many wide receivers Deron Bland now has more touchdowns than?
How many?
4. You want to know their name? You have Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Tyler Lockett, Jalen Waddle, and Calvin Ridley. There's more touchdowns than all of those guys.
Well, you said 4, and that's 5, but still, that's still a crazy stat. That's still a crazy stat, nonetheless.
Whatever, same difference, whatever. But as a cornerback, defensive back, come on.
Yeah, that's an unreal. That's unreal. You're on the opposite side of the ball, and you have the traditional they play corner, they play defensive back for a reason because they can't catch the ball. He's obviously proved that wrong.
He's amazing.
Players like him, Jalen Ramsey, Josh Norman.
He's young. I believe he's going to be there for a while.
Probably.
If they're smart, they will keep him. Yeah. And as much as half of the other 10 guys on that field.
Speaking of T, he had 63-ish yards this week.
He's slowly but surely
He got a couple
back.
Touches.
He's surely coming back.
He's getting enough touches that leads me to believe that I won't read a notification tomorrow that say he's going to Carolina. I think he'll probably be here this year. Who knows in the offseason, depending on how this year ends up. But I was kind of hoping to see Brian Burns and Hayden Hurst back. Hayden Hurst back at Cincinnati. Yeah. I really like Brian Burns. I wanted him in. But, all around, if we can keep the team we have now, I'm more than happy with that.
If we're being legitimate here, I think Cincinnati's a tight end away from being absolutely unstoppable.
Irv Smith had his best game, I think, and he did,
but I mean
nothing. He did nothing. He didn't do anything.
That's what I mean.
I mean, what is that first drive? He had just I can't remember if he slipped or dropped the ball or something, but it just we've struggled at the tight end slot. I miss Hayden Hurst a lot.
Yeah.
Don't know whose decision it was to send him away, if it was his or ours. But
he was a Cincinnati guy, dude.
Crop top, dude.
He brought the energy.
He's a baller, and I really like him. But hopefully number 88 we'll see back in black and orange again. But Carolina getting their first dub.
Surprisingly,
I don't think anybody was watching that game.
The
honestly.
Rematch of that game was awesome. I will say CJ versus Bryce was cool to watch. I'm not gonna lie.
It's only happened a couple times.
Yeah, but I mean it was a cool game. Very low scoring game. CJ has looked amazing. I mean this game is a little bit shaky, but he was due for a bad game. Whatever.
Yeah. It's week 8.
He's played amazing though. Nonetheless, he's literally probably been the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year. If we're being real,
I'd say so.
I mean, you can put Puka up there, absolutely. It's very close. Very close.
Addison too.
Jordan Addison is up there, but I mean, quarterback standpoint, it's hard to be a quarterback in this league, man.
Especially on a team on the franchise like the Texans.
The Texans too.
First time head coach. You're new to the league. You come out and you have the record you have so far. I'm very impressed. Absolutely. He's played incredible football. Mm-hmm. Obviously. I'll glaze CJ Stroud all day. That's my boy. That's my boy. I love him. Awesome. I love him. I miss seeing him in Scarlet, but he good to see him having success. I really like D'Amico Ryans too.
Yeah.
I like seeing players who become coaches go back to where it all happened for them when they were players.
It's a cool story.
It's definitely a cool thing. Same with Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Love it. Very very cool. Looking forward to seeing how the Texans finish out the season.
I am too.
Don't expect a whole lot from the Panthers. Bryce Young, he's small frame.
First win of the season.
Small frame. He's got a first win in the Bryce Young era, but he doesn't have a lot to work with right now in Carolina.
Until he
offensive
gets something.
Line. Adam Thielen, your wide receiver 1.
Thielen has been unstoppable for one. Actually,
He's showing that he still got it.
It's very weird. I'm not gonna lie. He's shocked a lot of us, like a lot.
Me included. I didn't. If I would have known he would have been a fantasy dog like that, I would have picked him up.
Absolutely.
Of course, everyone in their right mind, hindsight's 2020. Everyone in their right mind going into the season, they're gonna pick up Justin Jefferson. I had the number 1 pick. Of course, I got Jay Jettas. You have to.
Yeah.
The only other person I was considering was Jamar Chase, but I didn't allow myself off principle, and I'm glad I didn't because it was a slow start. Justin Jefferson will be back pretty soon. Depends on who's thrown to him. That's something we should have led with for sure. That Kirk Cousins injury was just a heartbreaker. It was a heartbreaker. They were playing some fantastic football.
Minnesota fans are in the corner of her closet crying.
Going on a drive to clear their mind, like they're
You beat your division rival at what cost?
Quentin, friend of the show, he'll be on here sometime to give his takes on the Vikings and the Nuggets. I'm so sorry, brother. That's so unfair. Kirk Cousins finally showed that you're like, look, man, I've been this guy.
Yeah.
I've been this guy for years, and no one's shown me any respect. And he's an incredible ball player, incredible quarterback, very smart passer.
Him,
the only times I've seen him throw picks in the last few weeks has been pretty much not his fault. Whether it be a deflection or just be a wrong route or whatever. TJ Hawkinson, incredible football player. Hasn't looked that great this season up until last night.
Right.
But, Kirk Cousins, hopefully, they'll send him out to LA to get that that Achilles repaired. Whatever he's doing, please have him do it too.
The only difference between him and Aaron is that Kirk is extremely religious. So
Kirk is a good Christian man, and Aaron Rodgers, God knows what he's putting in his body. Whatever it is, it's working. Whether it's baby's blood or dolphin mating sounds, whatever he's doing, it's working. So congrats to you guys. But Jordan Addison is having a great year, filling in at the WR1 spot
because he was even before.
Yeah, before Justin Jefferson even got hurt, he was
second in the league in touchdowns.
And he'll be back soon.
He will.
TJ is looking good.
I don't think that removes his progress, though. I think he continues. Despite the quarterback issue, it's a little bit unknown.
Well, if you're playing the Vikings now, despite who may be at quarterback, when you see Jordan Addison playing the way he has, you can't just double cover Justin Jefferson every game now. Regardless of who you free up, they're a threat. They could score in any play. That Jordan Addison last Sunday night or Monday night when he just ripped it out of his hands, spinning around, bro. It was Charizard Ward got exposed for 2 weeks in a row.
He has.
He's a bum. I'll say it. He's a bum. He's a Charvarius bum, fraudulent. But the Vikings. I still think personally that they can end 500. With a healthy Kirk, I could have saw a playoff win, a wild card win. Yeah. That's just the Vikings, man. They're always going to be in it. They're never going to win it, but they're always going to be in it.
I'll be honest. At the beginning of the year, Detroit was obviously the favorite to win this division. They're showing that. Good for them. I had the Vikings though. I was the guy that picked the Vikings to win this division, and now it's kind of like, oh crap. Obviously, you're in some trouble now. Do I think that they do now? I don't think so. No. But, obviously the next challenge is finishing at least 500. Yeah. But that starts with the front office. Right. I don't think they roll with their second string. I think that they sign somebody or trade somebody.
That's the hard thing, too.
It's so close. It's so close to this deadline.
I was off today getting groceries, driving around, just listening to people talk sports, and it was pretty split, because, think about it, Jared Hall hasn't had an opportunity to prove himself yet.
No, he hasn't.
His last year at BYU, he had over 3,000 yards, 36 touchdowns, only 5 picks. Yeah. Obviously, BYU is a little different than Minnesota Vikings, but, he could be a really good ball player. He could be a good stand-in for Kirk Cousins. Right. But the thing about it, with the injury happening 2 days before the trade deadline, you're going to have to either say, hey, let's just go for it, we trust him, or let's go pick somebody up. But who are you going to pick up right now on the QB market?
Jameis Winston, for one, I believe. Kyler Murray has
eat some W's in Minnesota.
Kyler Murray, I think, is honestly a serious candidate for this.
Well, especially now to mention the fact that his.
But I will say this. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, okay.
But Cardinals, they did announce that they're benching Josh Dobbs after this week. So going
Kyler
forward,
has been practicing,
and now that it's been, I feel like I don't really think it's going to happen, but the better move here would to be trade for Kyler, because Kyler obviously wants out of Arizona. Kirk's contract is done for this season, and I think it's time for a new face in Minnesota.
I think
as much as I hate to admit that it is.
I think if they're trading for someone, I think what's going to happen is they're going to wait till the end of the season. I think they ride with Jaron Hall, regardless of what that may look like at the end of the year. Because when you're replacing Kirk Cousins, you're not just looking for someone to finish the season. You're looking for someone to be your franchise quarterback.
Right. Yeah.
Do you pull the trigger now and get like a Jacoby Brissett, or do you wait till the end of the year? Do you take Ryan Tannehill? Do you take Ryan Tannehill from Tennessee?
I think it just
Will
depends
Levis
on how
balling
much
out,
they
4
have.
touchdowns in his first game. Do you keep Will Levis at a starting quarterback? Because Ryan Tannehill, again, one of those guys who can't win the big games. He'll always choke in big games, throw the picks. Do you go and you pick him? Because he's still a great quarterback. What do you do? What do you do in that situation?
It's so on the table because, again, with this deadline, you literally have such little time to make a decision here. And given the circumstances of the season, it's not looking too good for Minnesota right now.
No.
I mean, they're getting hot again,
Football God's not on
They're getting hot again, which is great. If they're looking for a playoff push, if they're dedicated enough, they're going to go out and grab somebody. If not, stick with what you got with Jared Hall, write it out, whatever, take your hit.
If I was them, I'd write it out. Maybe you just get lucky enough to see that he's a really good quarterback, and he's your guy for the future. But the most likely situation, we always speculate ahead of the trade deadline, but most of the time the trades we want to happen don't happen. They'll probably ride with Jaron Hall. They'll probably go pick up somebody else in the offseason. Right. But the fact of the matter is, it's just unfair.
Right.
They were looking really good, looking like a playoff contending team, and it just wasn't in the cards, unfortunately. One of my best friends, Will, though, he did put something on the line. Yeah. He texted me earlier and said, "Hey, I'm putting it now. Next year, Kirk Cousins, you are a San Francisco 49er." Would that not be perfect though? With that system, the kind of quarterback Brock Purdy is, his play is similar to Kirk Cousins. He does run the ball a little bit more, but see a world where Brock Purdy does not play well for the rest of the season, where it was just a fluke. He was a fraud. I'm not saying that he is, but in a world that he was, Kirk Cousins, San Francisco, that might be a great fit. He's only 36. He's not 39. He's got at least 2-3 good years left in him.
If they're wanting to win, if Kirk wants one, he will. You know what I mean?
And I hope he gets one, bro.
I think part of the say is on him though.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
I think they'll give him what he wants.
Yeah, he had no trade clause for a reason.
He's done so much for that franchise, dude. Yeah. I mean, the miracle in Minnesota with Diggs, that was unreal.
Toss the helmet.
Hasn't done much in the playoffs, unfortunately. I mean, last year was brutal. Losing at home to the Giants was a little rough, but
especially for the Giants, I believe they have this year.
If he really wants to, I think that he will. Yeah, he will probably go somewhere like a powerhouse like that, and I could see it happening. But at the end of the day, I mean, look at where are they going to do with Brock? But again, they're not paying nothing for him, so
they just say, "Hey, we'll keep you, but you're back as our second string."
Right.
Like what? I don't know. Kind of maybe if he plays well enough, there's another team that might.
There's a lot of teams that will take him.
A lot of teams that need a quarterback. Yeah. There's a very real question that in New York with the Giants, do they keep Daniel Jones after this year? Do they do they write out the contract? Like he'll be back soon. He'll be back on the field, but the start of this year did not look good at all. It did not look good. So it's tough to say. There's so much speculation that typically happens week 8, week 9. It's just one of those things. But man, what an incredible week of football. Don't want to sit and talk about every single game that's happened. Yeah. Lamar Jackson, quiet game. Gus Edwards still had 3 touchdowns. Insane. I started him. Quietly. Still lost in fantasy. It was quiet. It's hard when you have so many games at the 1 o'clock time. You can't possibly watch all that football.
Oh right.
But I am so sick and tired of seeing the Bears in primetime.
Whoever's in charge of this needs
keep in mind they're going to be in primetime again. This isn't the last time.
Literally
this Thursday after they already had a Thursday night football game earlier this season. I'm so tired of seeing that. The one football game I watched on my honeymoon was Washington versus Chicago. Who is scheduling these primetime games? Yeah, it's the Chargers, but it's still 2 2-win teams. I don't know what we're doing putting, Eagles Commanders even at the 1 o'clock slate, and then putting this game on Sunday Night Football. Like, I'm just tired of watching the Bears play. Tyson Bagent, had a great first game. I don't think any of us really expected him to keep that. It's hard to play in the NFL. That's just the reality of the league.
I believe that they just ruled Justin Fields out today as well for this coming Sunday. So we get one more week of Tyler and.
Maybe he just needs to get like Will Levis, have someone break your heart and then just go pop off for 4 touchdowns.
Speaking of Will Levis, yeah, what a night. What a night.
He single-handedly revitalized D-Hop's career. 3 touchdowns.
He said, he's like, they wrote me off.
He said, I'm still him.
Good for him,
That was a great game.
Good for him.
Jordan, I'm happy for you. You guys in Nashville, you Nashvilleans really deserve that one. It's been a tough year for you two. You beat the shit out of us, which was great to get off my plane on my honeymoon and see the score on that Sunday morning.
It's like, let's see how.
I just got married yesterday. I wonder how we scored 3 points. Damn. Evan McPherson, can always count on him, but that was a tough game. But great Sunday of football. Monday Night Football is happening as we speak. I know you got the score up.
Looking even better.
I know you got the score up. We talked about it beforehand before we were on the air. You expected this to be a pretty low-scoring game. You didn't think that the over would hit this time?
I did not. According to Rhythm, this was actually going under 45, apparently, with a 60% edge. So far, we're at 6-0 before halftime with 2 field goals. So very slow start on the offenses here, but we'll recap that on our next episode. That's game.
Yep.
So we're not going to sit here and talk until the end of this football game, unfortunately.
Yeah. We'll probably wrap it up here. Come to a close. Go watch some Monday Night Football. But yeah, that's our first episode. We hit 2 hours. How are you feeling?
This is awesome. We
didn't even get a chance to talk about the NBA too, but my throat's getting dry. I'm slurring my words.
We'll catch up on NBA. We'll catch up on Game 3 of the World Series. And
Joker is still him.
And Game 4 of the World Series as well. Probably Game 5, I believe, is on Thursday as well. So possibly...
A lot going on. A lot of sports happening.
Yeah,
right
very hard to cover
Crazy
all
to
stuff.
think that the World Series... I'm not the biggest baseball fan in the world, but crazy to think that the World Series is getting overshadowed because NHL, NBA, I understand how this sounds. MLS playoffs as well.
Yeah.
Like... NFL, college football, it's all happening at the same time. It's a lot of sports to keep track of.
It's just prime sports.
That's why we got through a third of our little script we wrote up here, and it's already 2 hours. This is the fact of the matter. Like,
if we're gonna be real for a second here. I mean, there's no point in writing all of some of this stuff down.
No, for sure.
I mean,
a lot of that came back.
You can tell if you love sports as much as we do. I mean, it's very, very hard to kind of just keep your mouth shut and go on to the next topic. There's just so much.
Coming into our first episode, I expected there'd be some times where, I'd ask you a question or vice versa, and we'd take a second to think about it. Yeah. But it's just been rapid fire this whole time because, we've been waiting for the platform to just sit and talk about sports. Yeah. I don't have the energy to tweet every single thing that I'll say. I will say though, before we get off the air, light the beam, baby! What an incredible game last night. Laying in bed with my wife who's asleep. I'm sitting there in silence, silent screaming, just like Malik Monk and Kevin Horter just taking over. Kevin getting the DPOG after
watching on Stream East like this.
I don't know if you remember, but Kevin had a really rough game against the Warriors, 0 for 9. Came back and to get that chain put on was huge for his mental. What a fun game to watch.
Awesome.
Ni hao D'Lo.
I'm glad. I'm glad to be a new fan of
for sure
of the Kings now. So I'm looking to root on my Kentucky boys here.
Well, when we have our Thursday episode, a lot of that will be we'll talk about the World Series,
more about the NBA and the World Series and stuff.
Heavily be NBA episode. I feel. We'll talk about our picks going into the weekend.
Preview all
college football, NFL.
Most of the games. Yeah. Almost said all the games. I don't know if we can do 37 games this time.
I don't know about this Thursday, but we'll get our resident Nuggets fan Quentin in here next few weeks. Talk about the Nuggets and what they're looking like this season. He told me a really funny stat about their first round pick coming out of UCLA. Averaging 3 points a game at UCLA, and now he's already averaging 15 a game. Just absolute ball. The GM knew something that we didn't apparently because he just got picked. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Denver knows what they're doing.
Joker literally looks like he's asleep on the court, just dropping triple doubles every night. Like, what do you do? What do you do? How do you guard that? Like, how do you guard that?
The quote said about Chet Holmgren. He
said boy needs to get fat.
I said, like, I think he needs to gain a little weight. So
it's the reality, though. The dude's like, you know, he didn't play his first year because he was injured.
Right.
You're not gonna last long if you don't put on some weight. But I mean, it's the Wemby effect. You know, like, his metabolism like attacks every calorie in his body. Like, it's just, what do? I wish I had that problem. I don't. You know, big boys unite. We still love big boys love ball too.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. But
big boys no ball.
Big boys no ball. I mean, you know, our the leader of the big boys, Frank the Tank. He sure knows ball. So you know, it's I feel like, you know, this is a great first episode. I love talking ball with you, bro, and I'm looking forward to talking again on Thursday.
Many more to come for sure. I mean, this is what we want to do. It was awesome. I mean, not to like get a little personal or whatever, but like we literally started reconnecting just very recently, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah, I moved away. You know, we got pretty close when I lived here a few years ago. I moved away, moved back, got married, came back to the town we live in now. And you know, because of sports, we reconnected and we've talked every day about sports. And we're like, sitting there at like 11:30 at night one night, be like, man, we definitely shouldn't start a podcast.
Yeah, I was just like, man, I've definitely thought about it. It was like, oh my god, I was literally just talking about that with Caroline the other day, and I was like, okay, so like, when's first episode? 2 weeks later.
Here we are, literally 2 weeks ago.
Mike, Max, stats, sports.
Max barking in the background. But, yeah, man, it's super fun. It just, like, you know, it doesn't matter if we get a viewer a day. Just, like, sitting and talking ball is just so fun.
But I appreciate everybody who's listening actually this deep into this pod right now. Like,
yeah, for sure.
Serious dedication right there.
Will, Audrey, maybe Caroline, whoever else.
We can say the names because
nobody else is watching. But, yeah, it's been a lot of fun, man.
It's crazy.
And we'll pick it up again on Thursday.
Crazy. Appreciate y'all.